It is 9:06 on March 19th. Due to technical difficulties, we're running a little bit late here, but we'll call the Wright County Board of Commissioners to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. We'll review the minutes from March 5th, if anybody has any modifications or changes. Otherwise, I'll look for a motion.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I have a motion by Commissioner Dahlheiden. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Potter. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved from March 5th. We'll move forward here with approving today's agenda. Is there any modifications or additions to today's agenda? Seeing none, I will
I'll
ask.
make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Commissioner Dahlheiden and a second by Commissioner Hewsome. Any further discussion regarding the agenda today? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Today's agenda is approved. Today's consent agenda. Has anybody have any interest in removing any items for further discussion from today's consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Commissioner Dahlheiden and a second by Commissioner Hewsome regarding today's consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none. Today's the consent agenda is approved. We are moving along swimmingly well. Virgil Hawkins, you are up as our first timed agenda.
No.
Highway engineer.
No.
No, yes, yeah. There's a
Oh.
It got moved to the back. He had to move. They typo. It's
Sorry.
right here. It's C, but it was 902. It's a typo.
Okay.
Ah. Okay.
Thank you.
So if you go through your pack, you're right. It's in order.
Yeah.
Morning, Chairman Vetch and Board of Commissioners. Today, there's two items for consideration. The first item is to approve cooperative agreement between Wright County and the townships of Clearwater and Silver Creek for the local road improvement project, 150th Street Northwest. And this project received funding in the amount, grant funding of $750,000, but as a project sponsor, we're required to be involved as a fiscal agent and administration for the funding.
I'll make a motion to approve the cooperative agreement between Wright County and the townships of Clearwater and Silver Creek.
Second.
All right. We have a motion by Commissioner Potter and a second by Commissioner Dahlheiden. Any further discussion on the cooperative agreement? Hearing none. This is a resolution. Commissioner Potter?
Aye.
No, it isn't. Oh, it's the next one's a resolution. I'm sorry.
This one.
Yep,
The other
I'm
one's
sorry. I
all
went
right.
ahead. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Cooperative agreement approved. Sorry, went ahead.
Okay, thank you. The second item is to approve cooperative construction agreement between Wright County and MnDOT for the upcoming I-94 improvements between Albertville and St. Michael. And this agreement outlines the cost and maintenance responsibilities. And the local county share of this project is estimated to be $1.3 million. We do have budgeted in our local option sales tax revenue identified to go towards this. So this agreement I'd request be approved, and also due to the timing nature of this, like I have the originals here, I'd like to request signature right away. Claudia DeMont's coming to take these to St. Paul. They need to be approved before tomorrow.
For tomorrow.
Sure. So you can bring them up
Well,
here and I
in a
can sign
hurry,
them
I'll
so you
make a
can be on
motion
your-
to approve the cooperative construction agreement associated with the local improvements to County CASA 19 as part of MnDOT's 94 project.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Potter, a second by Commissioner Dahlheiden on the cooperative agreement.
One quick question.
Go ahead.
When are the bids opening for the design build?
Tomorrow.
It is tomorrow.
No wonder why we're hurrying really fast.
It's going to be interesting to see what they come up with.
Yes, it is.
How soon will we know?
Tomorrow.
We will have the information available? Okay.
Any other further discussion regarding the CASA 19 and MnDOT agreement? Hearing a resolution, yes. Commissioner Potter?
Aye.
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 Thank you. If you want
I
to
do
bring that
have
up
the
here, I'll
four
sign that real
originals.
quick for you. All right, now we're going up to 9:07. We'll go back in the agenda to Mr. Mattice. All right. I gotta figure out which one, what color am I? see here, I am. Am I signing all these?
Will he sign in those, now you can finally start using some hot mix on those potholes? Yes. Just for the public, before with potholes, they had to use cold mix, and now they can start using the hot mix, which makes them last a little longer. What's this?
Few potholes out there.
St. Paul had one that they put the truck in the pothole so people, 3 cars had hurt themselves. It was big enough, they put the whole truck in it to
Yeah.
keep people from going in it.
I know.
So what happened on 37 with all the kind of rolling spots here just in the last couple weeks between Maple Lake and 25? There's some spots there that kind of came rolling big sink spots along there, which was kind of strange all of a sudden. We feel that?
Got 'em all?
And there you go. Now I'll let you take that to Lee.
Thank you.
Mr.
Morning,
Mattice.
Chair, members of the board. 2 weeks ago, I brought to you bids, authorizing bids and contracts for the Montissippi Park, full depth reclamation, pavement for the trails, truncated dome insulation and concrete. As part of that meeting, you laid over until I could go rebid the alternate work, which is the concrete work and the truncated domes. I've done that. The commissioners, for your knowledge, that moving forward with the Omen contract, which is the low bid for the pavement and the full depth reclamation, and subcontracting out through myself to hire a separate contractor to do the concrete and truncated dome would save the county $6,890.85. Managing the project would increase my staff time a little bit for site preparation, because we'd have to then do a little bit after they pave, then you have to cut the asphalt, get it square, do a little removal and do a subgrade prep, which I'm guessing about $2,500 in staff time and materials, for a total savings of $43.90 and 85 cents. The project does have $87,500 in state grants tied to it. Recommendation would either, you got 2 ways you can go. You can award the bid to Omen, base bid to Omen, and then let me work with concrete contractors on that price. Or you could award the bid to Mid-Minnesota, which is the low bid for the overall project, including the alternates. It's about $6,900 between the two.
So, yeah, Mr. Chair, Mark, that's what I was curious about. So Mid-Minnesota is cheaper in the overall bid, but you're recommending,
I don't recommend
or,
it.
I mean,
I'm providing information.
okay.
Omen Brothers is the low base bid, and then with us subcontracting out the concrete work and the truncated domes, it'd save you about $6,900.
Okay.
Plus there'd be a cost for staff time and our materials to do the prep. If you wanted to, you could always award the base bid and the alternate, which is Mid-Minnesota at $205, $530.20. You can go either direction with that.
That's, I mean, overall, that's $4,000 cheaper, right?
It's
So
cheaper.
Okay.
Could do it that way.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Potter.
I'll make a motion to award the contract and authorize Parks Recreation Director to develop contract for project 780-332-19, which is the base bid to Owen Contracting, and then they work on the alternate bids themselves through the parks.
Second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Potter, a second by Commissioner Burrell. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Dowling?
Yeah, I want to thank Mr. Mattice for going through the extra work to find that, and to help save taxpayer money.
No problem. Appreciate it. Great idea by Commissioner Burrell.
Well,
Go, Charlie.
you know, he was due for one.
He was.
Okay, any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agreement is approved,
Thank you.
as amended.
Yeah.
I'll take that compliment, Mark, no matter how small.
You deserve it, Charlie, you deserve it.
Auditor Treasurer Bob Hevola.
Hey, good morning, Board. We have some housekeeping stuff to do here. The first item on the agenda is to approve the resolution of findings and fact and order. One of the things as we go back and look at our ditch records, we find a lot of ambiguity and things aren't completed. So what you have in front of you is a resolution to actually affirm the action that we're taking. So what this first action is reaffirming where that ditch ends. So we're confirming the partial abandonment of County Ditch 29.
Mr. Chair, before we go on that, Bob, could you talk to me on page 3 of where it says other evidence? And it doesn't really, when I'm reading through this, you know, like the evidence, the people spoken, it says who it is, but then it says other evidence, and we are assuming that Grover Avenue was the township road Mr. Merkin referred to. Are we talking the auditor's office at this point, or is that, who is the we?
Commissioner Burrell, Mr. Chair, I'm going to bring Matt up here.
Or is that us, the board?
Come on, Matt.
It's kind of all the way through on that other evidence though, Matt, if you want to talk to it. And then the letter, I got that, but then I went back and looked, and I'm like, I don't know who I is. Is that you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because remember that.
It doesn't say anywhere where you were talking, I don't think, unless I missed it.
Yeah, because if you remember correctly, that the hearing that we held on it was just based off the evidence that I found through our ditch records and in our minutes.
Okay. So, would it be all right if we just, I mean, because we didn't approve these minutes yet, did we? Or are they approved already?
Coming up next.
Okay, because maybe then when it just says, I, Matt Deggen, Drainage Coordinator, you know, and we, the county board, or we, the auditor's office, just so that we know who's talking, I guess.
Okay.
Otherwise, I could see somebody doing this 30 years from now and say, who's I? Okay.
Yeah, that,
It's kind of not totally relevant, but it is anyways. Okay, thank you, Matt. We'll do the minutes after then, is that the thing,
Yep.
Bob?
Shouldn't the minutes be done before a resolution?
If you want to do that, Board, we sure can.
I would think that you'd want to do the minutes before you make the
It
recommendation.
would make sense, I guess, yeah. Otherwise, it would be the, so, Mr. Chair, I would make a motion that, not make a motion, but make a recommendation that we change the minutes on page 3 to say, who, now, Matt, is the we the county board? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so maybe just say the county board is assuming that Grover Avenue, the county board is assuming, right?
It might be more appropriate to put drainage authority.
Oh, the drainage authority, okay. All right, okay. Deb, you got that? The drainage authority? No?
Could you give me the
you say it
location again?
Oh, it's on page 3 where it says other evidence of the
Where?
minutes.
It's in the minutes, Lee.
The minutes, the
29.
resolution.
It's not in the I don't even have a copy of the resolution.
The resolution's right here.
It's-
Do you want me to share it with you,
yeah,
Charlie?
they're here.
Well, depending which resolution you're
it's not
talking
in
about,
the-
this is one for the finding. There's a couple different resolutions here.
Okay.
There's the resolution of
But it's
the
in the minutes
findings.
on page 3.
Page 3, 5C, I think it is.
From the minute.
And then,
I went back and looked at, is that what we're talking about?
29.
It's,
5C.
it starts off, says 1 of 5, and then it's not that page 3, but you keep going. There's a couple different page 3s here apparently. So it goes through, all through the 1 of 5, then there's a map. It's right on the back side of the map.
But the resolution does read all of them as the board agrees. Every, so the drainage authority, it's very, The resolution itself is pretty detailed.
Yeah, there, oh, it says it on the is that the resolution too?
These are the minutes.
Okay, but, yeah, yours looks different than mine totally. Mine is other evidence. I went back.
Yeah, it's right there. Same thing.
Okay, yeah, that's it, yeah, yeah. So
Are you good with the minutes as are, or as is, or?
No, that's what needs to get
Okay.
changed.
So we are going, you guys want to approve the minutes for County Ditch 29 on item, in this case, in your agenda is B5 first, before passing the resolution?
But, yeah, for sure.
For sure? Okay. So we are, right now, we are approving the minutes. Do you want us to approve all groups' minutes in one vote, or do you want us to approve minutes individually for each ditch?
Or why don't we just take all the minutes?
In-
and we
as a
don't
whole?
flip them back and forth.
Okay, we'll approve all the minutes for County Ditch 14 and 29.
Well,
I-
is that a wise thing, though?
Can we just do them individually?
You wanna do- okay, that's fine.
There's a few typos that
Okay, sure.
I'd like to.
So we're approving then, right now, I'll look for a motion to approve the minutes from County Ditch 29 public hearing on March 5th,
I'll make a motion. to
with the
approve.
amendment of Commissioner Burrell's.
Well, it's more than one thing, though, Derek.
Oh, you have more?
Yeah,
Okay.
because it just says, if we change where it said other evidence, say, the Drainage Authority is assuming that Grover Avenue was the township, whatever, and then a letter, that's fine. But item number C, I went back, just say Matt Deggen, County Drainage Authority, went back and looked where Mr. Sykes' property, and he found the property. Instead of writing it in first person,
Sure, do you want to share those with Jan, your changes, and then we'll get them approved with your changes? If
Ken, you
you,
got it?
should we?
Uh,
Okay.
Yeah.
It's that way because Matt started the meeting off, and that's his continuation of conversation, but I can change it.
I think it would be more, yeah, it'd be more better. It would be better. It would be better written in a different context, because like I said, I could see somebody going back and said, I went back and looked, and they're saying, who is I? Then you got to go back and find it, so.
okay.
And I just had a couple of little typos
Are these
here
on
too.
the 29?
Yeah,
or-
29.
Okay.
So it'd be on page 3, other evidence, and it's the second line. Mr. Workman referred to due to, but it would just be cross out the first two and change the DO to DUE.
Jen, you got that?
Yeah.
And then on page 4, under Jerry Tollefson, the reason I'm here today is HERE.
What?
Thank
Spell
you.
check can be your best friend or your worst enemy, depending on,
Well, she
Right.
spelled it right.
exactly.
Right.
Wrong
it's-
word.
Yep.
All right. So with any other changes, otherwise, then I will once again look for a motion to approve item B5, the County Ditch 29 public hearing minutes from March 5th, as amended.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Dahlheiden,
A second.
second by Commissioner Hewsome. Any other further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, all right. Since we're already on the 5, I'm gonna do we're gonna do item B5, and we're gonna get County Ditch 14 public hearing from February 26th approved as well, so we can
Minutes?
cross off that entire agenda item. So minutes from February 26th, County Ditch 14. Any modifications? Otherwise, I will look for approval.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second, but I also have a few typos.
Is there a lot of them, or is it just a couple?
It's like
Otherwise, I'd just
4.
have you hand it over to Jan, maybe, and just that way,
We can do that
that
too.
might be easier than to try and.
Just, for the the main one is Steve Stein's name, I believe is spelled Stein instead of INE, but
I'm
it's just
sorry,
a,
Commissioner, I missed that. What page and location?
I'm
so
sorry,
we can get it
it's
in the
on page
minutes?
2,
Okay.
under Vetch, open the meeting for public comments.
Bullet point number 4.
Somewhere around.
Stein
Okay,
is
see that?
EIN.
Under which topic?
Yeah.
What was the
Bullet
heading?
point 4 of joint, or county ditch 14 minutes. Steve Stein is misspelled.
I'm still in here.
Other modifications? Or do you want to
I
just?
do have 3 more typos on one.
If you want, otherwise, do you want to just go through them?
Call those out quick so we can get.
Sure.
into
Sure, sounds
minutes.
good.
All right, so on page 3, under B, the third to the last line, Truman Walters, I believe, unless I'm wrong, is Truman, I thought was True, but just to verify that,
Let me see.
I might be wrong on that one, I should have looked it up. The next
Well,
line,
it's not Walters either, it's Welters.
Welters, yep, Welters, thank you. And the next line, system northeast of Mary Lake is verily clean. I think it should be very clean. Under C, the second line, the end of the sentence, so the system defiantly serves a purpose, so it should be definitely. Did you find it, Charlie?
I have it spelled both ways. I'm no help, sorry.
So just to verify, it is Welters for sure,
I
but
have one of the Trumans spelled with an E and one. Oh,
did you
that's
find
funny.
Truman Walters?
Yeah.
Okay.
I could call him and find out.
Anyway, we can just verify that that's, the correct spelling of that.
It is TRUEMAN-WELTER.
Okay. There we go.
According to their website.
There we go.
No, thank you, Commissioner Hewsome.
I do have just one thing. I had a survey company come out and measure that. Was that you, Matt? Or was that? Okay.
So should we say Steve had a survey company?
I would just think it needs to be defined who.
I think, yeah, when we do that minutes and all, instead of saying aye, maybe just put a name in there so we know.
Okay, so with those modifications, I will look for a motion to approve the February 26th public hearing on County Ditch 14.
Got it,
We
don't you?
did
Do
already.
I have a,
Motion and second, you've got
oh,
it.
yeah, we did, with your modifications, yep, okay. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved from the February 26th and March 5th ditch public hearings. Now we will go back for the resolutions. The resolution on findings and order correcting drainage systems and records confirming partial abandonment for County Ditch 29.
I
We
think
don't
for
wanna
the
do 10.
future, Mr. Chair, I think for the future is that the minutes should always come before a
Sure.
resolution
Yep.
or an action item.
And I think staff has that noted, though.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Dahlheiden on the resolution regarding County Ditch 29.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hewsome. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, and this is just setting the termination point at the township road, is that basically it? I don't have a copy of that resolution, it's not in my thing.
It's setting the abandonment south of Grover Avenue Northwest,
Okay.
On the south side of it.
on the south side of Grover Avenue.
It was supposedly officially done years ago, but
So with that, it's as a resolution. Commissioner Potter?
Reluctantly, yes.
aye.
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 Okay, Board, we're still on County Ditch 29. After that meeting, it's our recommendation that, I think it was your recommendation too, that we move forward with a redetermination of benefits of that system. Matt did get a quote from H2O reviewers. So again, in formality, we're asking you to adopt a statement of fact and finding.
I'll make a motion to approve the finding in fact and order regarding redetermination of benefits for County Ditch 29. Since that was requested back in 1986 and never done, I think it's
Probably.
a little past due.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Dahlhead and a second by Commissioner Burrell. Discussion. I have one point. So that $4,000 quote is the grass acquisition, or is it both the redetermination and the grass acquisition?
Mr. Jerry, yeah, so that cost would just be for the redetermination of benefits.
That's what I thought.
Most of the system, though, is a tiled system, so you don't have to acquire any buffer strip area, but there might be small sections.
Small sections, okay. So it could be a little bit beyond the $4,000 if we have to do any acquisition.
I wouldn't say much. There's only a small section that was opened up. It was originally tile, but they approved it in like the 70s to make a 300-foot section open.
Okay.
And it might be such a thing that when we repair it, we close the ditch back up. too.
Exactly, we could do that too.
The viewers will have to take that into account too, I guess.
So we have a motion and we have a second regarding the redetermination of benefits on County Ditch 29. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Commissioners, the third item on here, Matt was looking at the attendance of the County Ditch 10 meeting, and there's a lot of interested parties. That public hearing was scheduled for 10:30 on the 2nd, next Tuesday. It's our recommendation that you move that to 1:30 to allow more time for comments.
Okay, so reschedule the public hearing for redetermination of benefits on County Ditch 10 on April 2nd from 10:30 to 1:30. Looking for a motion?
I will make that motion.
I have a motion by Commissioner Hewsome.
I'll second it.
I have a second by Commissioner Burrell.
I already have it on.
Okay to do.
Is that,
Yeah.
Okay.
so we have a motion by Commissioner Hewsome, a second by Commissioner Burrell. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Public hearing is rescheduled for April 2nd at 1:30. Item number 4, schedule public hearing on County Ditch 10 for the engineer's report.
So Commissioners, remember we had the engineer come in and show us a proposed solution here. Now we'd like to schedule a public hearing so we can go over with the landowner.
Do you want to do that on the same day?
No, I have a couple dates that Mark would be able to. So this would just be to approve the storage treatment pond that we were looking at putting on County Ditch 10. I think Mark came in here and gave a good presentation on why that would be a benefit. But you have to officially adopt it since it's over a certain amount through a public hearing. Mark is available on April 10th or anytime the 15th through the 19th.
April 10th.
April 10th would be committee day, so that,
Cross that one off. Okay.
Well, you
Well,
could do
it
it
would
in the
have to be in the
afternoon. You could do a 1 o'clock or a 1:30 on April 10th.
you could.
April 10th is good for me, so whatever you guys think.
Make it happen.
I'm okay with
April
that.
10th at 1 o'clock.
Let's do 1:30. I'm gonna be in Litchfield. Well, you know what?
Do you want to go a
I'm
different
gonna
day?
be up there until probably at least noon.
So 1:30 be good.
1:30 would be
Okay,
better.
1:30, okay. 1:30, April 10th. So I need a motion and a second for the April 10th public hearing on the engineer's report for County Ditch 10.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Dahlhead and second by Commissioner Potter. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. April 10th, 1:30, engineer's report, County Ditch 10. Moving down to item number 6, approved February revenue expenditure budget report.
Board, you should have received a PDF copy of the February budget report, 17% of the way into the year. The highlights would be the appropriations that we've sent out. A lot of memberships and dues are due at the beginning of the year. There's really nothing for me to draw your attention to just 2 months into the year.
Did you look at the one line item that I emailed you, or that I talked to you on, that in the sheriff's department, that was 556% over? The 68, I think 6875 and 201?
We did talk about, I can't remember what the resolution was.
Just because it was
We did.
like $100,000 over the budget line item, so I'm just curious what that was.
Mr. Chair, I apologize. We did follow up on it. I don't remember the outcome of it.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, did we miss the minutes for ditch 10?
Mr. Chair, I was going to ask, did I miss?
Oh, I must have missed that one too. Okay, we'll have to come back to that one here. But I guess as long as we're
It's
discussing,
because there's 2 5s, I can see why you did that.
Yep.
You went from 5 to 6.
I thought that was part of the date.
But Derek, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6.
Yeah.
No, it's on March 5th.
Fifth.
Oh,
It's
that's-
on March 5th,
It's not a
2018.
date.
It's not a date.
It's part of a date, not,
Yeah.
just I ended up looking that way.
Look at Okay, well, we'll just approve the February budgetary reports and we'll come back to the county ditch then. All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Potter.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Dahlheiden. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Now approving of the County Ditch 10 minutes from March 5th as well.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Dahlheiden.
Just review the minutes to make sure there aren't more misspellings.
So we have a motion and a second regarding the County Ditch 10 Committee of the Whole on March 5th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ditch minutes are approved, as well as the February revenue report from the previous vote, so. All right, now moving on to number 7, authorize the private sale of tax forfeiture properties on Friday, April 19th at 1 p.m.
Board, my staff have reviewed the tax forfeited parcels that are kind of like landlocked. They're earmarked for private sales only. So we have a list of those parcels for you, and we have conditions set aside for them. I'm asking you to approve, authorize the private sale of these forfeited properties on Friday, April 19th at 1 o'clock or 1 p.m. And then also approve the conditions of the sale.
All right.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
So, since these are kind of landlocked, you're actually going to have a bid for it? I mean, if these are really necessary for the existing properties next to them, wouldn't you just be better off talking with them directly instead of having, I'm just trying to figure out why you would have a bid when it really, people could purchase it, but it really, they can't use it. Why there anybody would even be.
Commissioner, I'm going to let the attorney's office answer that.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Dahlheiden, we have 2 options. We can either have a public auction or a private sale. With the private sale, what we do is we just notify folks who own land adjoining or touching the property. So anybody who owns land adjoining the property gets notified, and there's a minimum bid price for each of those 2.
So is that what this is? It's a private sale. It's not a,
What it is written sealed bids that are turned into Bob's office.
oh, okay. All right, I misunderstood. Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Dahlheiden, second by Commissioner Potter on the authorize of the private sales of this tax forfeiture properties. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Last, we have approve a resolution requesting the state of Minnesota convey tax forfeiture parcel 11803800011.
Or if you recall, I brought before you a tax forfeit parcel that we could use for wetland credits. This is a tax forfeit parcel that would benefit our highway department. So we're asking you to, again, prove it the same way where we'll ask the state to take this for our highway department.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Dahlheiden, second by Commissioner Potter. Any further discussion?
Just a question, Mr. Chair. Bob, where is this parcel? You recall, or Brian?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hewsom, usually, a lot of times I'll bring the aerial photo, but it is just west of the intersection of CASA 39 and 42 in Otsego.
Okay.
It used to be a frontage road for some businesses there. I want to say it's within a block or 2 of west of that intersection. The city vacated it some years ago, and for some odd reason, the folks who it went to when it was vacated never paid taxes, so it ended up being tax forfeit. But according to Virgil Hawkins, they have a project coming up, I believe in 2020 in that area.
Okay.
And they could use this right of way.
I'm good, thanks.
It's a resolution. You have a motion and we have a second. Commissioner Burrell?
Aye.
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 Aye. All right. One thing, maybe Bob, when we put in for the approval of minutes, maybe put them as separate agenda items. It might be easier for me to find them.
Sure.
Than try to, because we end up voting on them separate anyways, so.
Commissioner,
Thanks.
we will do that.
Thank you. All right. Now we are, all right, set a public hearing. We approved the 10 minutes.
We did?
We did that 2 items ago. We approved the County Ditch 10 one. Did you have correction?
I completely blanked out.
Sorry, no,
I
it's
know.
okay. All right, now we're down to items for consideration. Committee minutes from the Finance CIP on March 13th. Commissioner Dolan, you want to kind of give us a summary?
Yeah, if I can
I can
find
help
my
you here.
notes here.
Lots of papers in our packet today.
I'll find out what I did with mine. I had my sticker on. That's
We
right.
met on March 13th to discuss the CIP. There was a couple of amendments that needed to be done, and this is just because of circumstances beyond the control of departments. We need to relay the money that was budgeted in 2018 to be sold in 2019. I have it.
Oh, you did, okay.
To be sold in to be used in 2019. There was some vehicles for the Sheriff's Department. That I believe was, I take that back. One of them was for the parks. The weather conditions were not conducive to finishing project up at Collingwood Park, so that money has to be spent here in 2019. Hopefully by August, when the snow all melts, that they'll be able to finish the project out of Collingwood Park. The other thing was some of the funding for Office 365 had to be moved into 2019. There are some requirements that must be met in order for this to happen in the future and for this. Those 5 reasons are the reasons for the carry forward request must have been budgeted in the previous year. The amount requested must not exceed the available budget of the line item. The amount must have been committed to by December 1st, either by purchase order or contract. Item number 4, circumstances beyond the department's control must exist. And again, an example was the Sheriff's Department ordered some vehicles, and unfortunately, they were not able to get delivered in 2018 and had to wait till 2019. And all carry forward requests must be approved by the county board. So the recommendations are to approve the 2 amendments, CIP amendments, shift technology funds to allow an upgrade for Office 365. Security licensing, number 2, identify the carryover of funds for Collinwood and Otsego Park projects that have not yet been completed. B, approve budget carryovers per the described proposed rules. And C, schedule Finance CIP Committee meeting for April 10th to review draft financial policies. Thus, Mr. Chair, I will make a motion to approve those minutes and the recommendations.
Thank you, Commissioner Dahliden. We have a motion by Commissioner Dahliden, second by Commissioner Houston. Thank you, both of you, for vetting out that process. These are some good policies going forward. One of many policies that we'll be looking at here in the weeks to come. But with that, I will
Got a motion already.
further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Now we will move to the Personnel Committee from March 13th. Commissioner Houston?
Personnel Employee Relations Committee met on March 13th. Members present, Dahliden, Hewsome, Sean Johnson, Michelle Miller, and Lori Pollock. And the request was from the Health and Human Services to temporarily extend part-time staffing hours for a social worker from 20 to 32 hours per week through May 17th, 2019. And just a little background, Michelle Miller came to the committee last July requesting increased work hours for 2 part-time employees from 20 to 32 hours through March 30th, 2019. And this was approved, and only one of the part-time employees decided to increase their work hours beginning in September of 2018. Miller is requesting to increase the work hours through May 17th to allow for the continuation of staff training and to assist in bridging the gap with the school resource placements. And this is budget neutral, so it's not going to have any impact on the budget. So we recommend that we approve to temporarily extend part-time staffing work from 20 to 32 hours for social workers through May 17th, 2019. With that, Mr. Chair, I'll move the minutes and the recommendation.
All right.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hewsom, a second by Commissioner Burrell. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes and recommendations from March 13th, the Personnel Committee are approved. And where are we at? Sorry. Now we are down to the Technology Committee from February 27th. I will going to go through a quick highlight of the February 27th. The IT Committee met, number of members present, so I won't read all the members present. First item discussed was the Enterprise Resource Planning and an update. Kind of, we're coming up to a quicker decision here. Sometime, I didn't get the exact date on it, but Lee, we were looking at having a vendor selection date of roughly somewhere late May, June-ish?
Hoping to have a final, we'll be coming forward to the board with recommendation and additional review prior to then.
Okay.
The group has recommended
A single vendor.
a single vendor.
Yeah, but it'll be coming forward to the board for
Yep.
a approval somewhere in the next 60 days-ish.
Yeah, once, you guys are still doing some more negotiations with that vendor and,
Correct. We felt it would be good to outline our business case and why we came to our recommendation and how to the board in order to, before we move forward with approval, to negotiate with them. So
Perfect.
that will be the first step.
And basically, we had some discussions on implementation, whether it would be done in stages or if it would be done in kind of more what we call a big bang style. Also talked about kind of a time commitment, and we'd be looking anywhere from 12 to 24 months, potentially longer, for full implementation. That was kind of one of the first items that was discussed. Second item was the IT, sorry, I missed the second item. It was the, where did that, I have, where did the?
Office 365.
Oh, that's right in the bottom. I couldn't find it on the bottom. It was the Office 365 update. That one was just mostly informational. Everything's kind of moving along well. There wasn't much to talk about on that, but if anybody's interested, you can review that. The other one was the IT project portfolio updates. There's no major highlights to pull out from that, other than the recommendation was that request to provide a county communication specialist, Julie Fashion, with some of the highlights. There was a nice PowerPoint that Britta put together that shows some of the major successes we've had in the last 12 months. So kind of hats off to IT in a challenging year with a lot of in and out of staff, and they were able to accomplish a lot of great things still. And the other one was the CIO survey results. Pat kind of walked us through kind of where we're at in terms of completion rates and kind of what the departments desire and kind of their feelings. Wasn't quite as many responses to the survey that we would have liked, but it's hard. You can't you can't force people to fill out those surveys. So, but if the survey's included in there.
I would say though, when you have fewer people, you have fewer problems. I mean, you know,
like you said in the meeting, you said if they didn't fill out the survey, they must not have any opinion, right?
Yeah, so then they're happy.
They're happy.
Except for the admin department.
So, but if you want to review the survey, that's included in here. Otherwise, I will make a motion to approve the minutes and the recommendations from the February 27th IT committee.
No, I'll make a motion.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. I forgot that I'm chair right now. I usually don't read minutes.
mayor can make a motion, but you can't. I'll second this.
All right. Commissioner Dolan has a motion and seconded by Commissioner Potter. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I just invite the public to go over the highlights from the IT department for 2018, and it's amazing what got accomplished in 2018 and looking about the big initiatives in 2019. But just with the digital signing, with now we're accepting credit cards in 8 of the areas in our county using the poll pads. Veterans now can go to Veteran Services and get their DDT 14 there, so they don't have to head over to recorders and wait to get mailed back. And just the scanning process and getting the communications with a new brand. I mean, they've done a lot, so kudos to our IT department and our technology committee. And looking ahead, I mean, look at all the big initiatives for 2019.
All right. Any further discussion? Otherwise, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Administrator Lee Kelly, you want to walk us through the workshop?
Sure thing. We met on March 12th, workshop. The topic was Commissioner web pages and social media. We had a presentation by Communications Specialist Julie Foshing. We kind of took a look at what other counties and jurisdictions are doing in social media and web pages for their elected officials. And we put together a Commissioners and Social Media Best Practices draft document. Had some good discussion on the use and the various forms of social media, and kind of got a sense from the commissioners what we may do in the future. So more to come on that in the future, but a good initial discussion, I thought.
It was a good discussion, yes.
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion by Commissioner Dolan, second by Commissioner Burrell. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Then I just had a question. Our next workshop is going to be on April 9th, am I correct?
Is it?
Are we going to do the
Yes.
1 o'clock again, or
No, it's set for 10 a.m. on
Yep.
the 9th.
10 a.m. on the 9th? Okay.
Yep.
I didn't have it on my calendar. Thank you.
Yeah, and I won't be there for that one.
Perfect. All right. Now we're going to the next item for consideration, accepting donations. First one would be for Melissa Abrams in the amount of $1,000.
Mr. Chair, I'll move forth the resolution accepting $100 from Melanie.
Is it Melissa?
Melissa
Yeah.
Abrahamson.
Abrahamson.
Oh, that was the first one? Okay.
First
Sorry.
one.
Melissa Abramson for $1,000 for a memorial bench.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Commissioner Burrell, a second by Commissioner Dahlheiden. This is a resolution. Commissioner Burrell?
Aye.
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 Resolution's approved. Next.
Mr. Chair, I'll move forth the resolution from Melanie Leckie in the amount of $100 to be set aside for the Robert Ney Regional Park Fund for maintenance and improvements to the equine trails.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Burrell, a second by Commissioner Hewsome, in the donation by Melanie Leckie in the amount of $100. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Let the public know that as far as people giving Wright County money, Commissioner Burrell is on the spot to say yes to that, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, it's great for some of these projects that we can
Correct.
get, collect donations. Saves the taxpayers money.
You don't look a gift horse in the mouth.
That's right.
Okay. So the Commissioner Burrell, it's a resolution.
Aye.
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 Okay.
That was for a horse trail too, wasn't it? Is that why you said it? that way?
Next, item consideration C, I believe, has to take place after the ordinance amendment. Brian? That's what Greg thought was the order that it had to take place in, but
That was my understanding.
that was my
It gonna be at the
understanding when he
very end of the
stepped out.
meeting.
So I'm going to leave it alone, and we will we'll come back to that one after the public hearing at 10:30. So we will move down to advisory minutes. So if anybody wants to go first on the advisory updates.
Yeah, I'll go first. Parks met last week, some of different discussions. In your board packet, you'll notice in the consent agenda was the annual report from the parks, information in there. They did a survey regarding which, that tree, ash borer.
Emerald ash borer.
Emerald ash borer. On how many trees we have in our parks in the immediate use area, and the plan on what we're gonna do about those. And there was about, I think it was around 14 trees that are damaged, that are sick in areas that are heavily used areas that they're going to take down and plant a different tree in its place. So we've got a plan on how we're going to do that over the next 10 years or so. And we're not going to plant another ash, or plant maple or oak or something.
Plant one so the next disease will get that one when it's mature.
Yeah, yeah. So, the ones that are in good shape, we're just gonna continue to let go, and we'll just keep an eye on them.
I got a question for you, Commissioner.
Go ahead, Pat.
With the Parks Department, with this very cold winter, when it gets sub-zero like that, supposedly, from what being told, that a lot of those invasive species get killed off their larvae and everything else. Is there somebody looking at that to see if that damage is being negated by that cold weather?
They did look at it, and that was discussed, and I can't remember the temperature, but there was only one day where the temperature got cold enough.
Okay.
And I want to say it was 44 degrees below zero or something. I can't, there was a number.
There's a number.
There was a number that was set out, but there was just only one day when it reached that cold. Those little buggers, I don't know, they can sure handle the cold better than I can.
They're pretty resilient.
They hide somewhere.
Yeah. It also meant, so that was it for the parks. I mean, there was a number of other things, but those were the kind of the highlights that I wanted to bring to your attention. And again, regarding that annual report, a lot of good information in there. They've accomplished a lot of great things. Met with the mental health group on Tuesday afternoon last week. Discussions again about all the issues with shortage of beds, working with the youth on trying to find local places for them. That in Elk River, there may be a new set of beds available if that continues to go forward. Central Minnesota Health is working with Wright, Sherburne, Stearns, and Benton to fund 15 beds, I think, through a fund that was through the state that was approved last year. And there's a few issues, and they're trying to get everything all worked out with the legalities of it.
Stearns County is at this point going to accept the bonds, correct? Because the JPA itself was having troubles accepting the funds, I think was what the last issue was.
Yeah. Yeah, they needed to have somebody that was going to be the placeholder fiscal agent, yeah. And then, you know, we talked about technology and that sort of stuff. I did actually find out one good thing that occurred when they redid MNLARS, the licensing setup. You can actually go, one good thing, you can actually go and, if you lost a title, you can go request a new title, and they print it out for you right then and there.
Oh, here.
Right then and there.
One good thing is right.
Well, I was impressed, because I had lost a title for a vehicle, and I needed one.
That's pretty slick.
I thought so. Too bad they can't do it for the rest of the stuff. Instead of waiting 6 to 8 weeks for your title to come from a new vehicle.
It may or may not.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And then add on to that, you know, Senator Scott with Jensen, Newman, excuse me, was all over the MNLARS thing, and when we were talking with him, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Which way do I go? Do I scrap and start over? And the state of Minnesota, and especially us taxpayers, are very fortunate that he is on the job on that one, because he took this real serious, and he had just a litany of issues to deal with, and had it broken out. And like I say, they chose to try to fix it, and I trust him that he did the right decision on that, because after talking to them on Min-Lars and the problem, I was convinced the right person's there to try to fix this problem now.
Regarding the fiasco with Min-Lars and Min-Sure and all that sort of stuff, it looks like they're going to start coming up with something like we do here in the county, where they're going to have a group to look at projects before they start, so they have a better plan. And instead of just building something, looking at, should we modify some of the laws or rules before we build something? You know, can we utilize a different state instead of reinventing the wheel?
Exactly.
So there's been some good conversations down at the state level, finally, regarding those sort of things. So I look forward to that actually happening.
Commissioner Potter, you have anything else you were going to add? No? Okay today. All right.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I have a couple things. Just to update you a little bit, with the Crow River Organization of Water that I go to, our director has announced at the last meeting that she is resigning. Her mother is very ill, and she's been caring for her, trying to juggle the job in, and she's just cannot handle both things. So, and she's deciding to take care of her mom. So, I give her my blessing for that, and we wish her well. But on that, with the implementation of the One Watershed, One Plan, we are actually having a special meeting to kind of consider the future of the Crow. So I want to put that out just because if any of you feel strongly about it, to get to me and let me know. But we really looking at it and say, you know, where is the usefulness? We thought, and I did anyway, that if we kept the Crow as a manager of the One Watershed, One Plan, then when the South Fork came into play, the Crow could be kind of economies of scale. But with Diane resigning or turning in her resignation, it's just very likely we don't have the talent pool at the Crow to do that kind of a task, whether we can bring somebody in on short notice. So really that part of it is going to be in flux. So in the next couple of meetings there's going to be a lot of discussion on where we go. So I didn't want to surprise any of you when you start hearing conversations like that. So that, and then Commissioner Hewsom and I can share this next one, but we were both at a meeting last Thursday at the Health and Human Services, and a presenter came out and talked about a program called Safe Families, and I'm hoping we're going to hear a lot more about this. It's not really so much to do with human services in the fact that it's a private venture. It's done through a lot of churches and whatever to kind of do like what Commissioner DeLayden does, is, you know, helping people out, get them on their feet and keep them off the system. That's kind of the intent of that, and using resources in the community. But there is a tie-in with human services, though, because for a referral, because a lot of times somebody would say, gosh, I'd love to help somebody, I have a good heart, but where do I go? Who needs help? And unless it's their immediate neighbor or somebody in their family, they're probably not going to be made aware of it. But through human services and this group, you could sign up, and it's just it's tons of different things that you can volunteer for. So some of it might be short-term care for the children. Others might be you have to have people that go around and inspect the houses, because these all have to be FBI or fingerprinted and cleared, just as though a foster parent would now. So they go through all the same background checks. But then we have people that might volunteer to go around and do spot checks on the house, make sure everything's up to date. Other ones might be for mentoring the single parent or the family that needs help, to help them how to get on your feet. And another one might be coming by to just tell, how's it going, what resources do you need, what help. So there's about 5 different ways that you could volunteer with this. And Lisa Welter they have this going in Anoka apparently, and it has just dropped their out of placement at the county dramatically. So I'm hoping it's something that takes off. This was kind of a presentation to Chris, I'm going to let you talk too, but it was a presentation between Sherburne County and Wright County, and they think that one coordinator could do this, and that coordinator is also funded by donations. So that's the only paid position in this entire thing, is that you're usually a county coordinator, but they think between Wright and Sherburne, one person might be able to handle that. So it was really exciting to hear about it.
It is. It's like keeping kids out of the foster care system. So people are in crisis from time to time, and if we can help them before they get into the system, it's just kind of a win-win for everybody. And I'd seen the presentation at Association of Minnesota Counties in December and talked to Human Services about it, and the Anoka County Chair actually contacted every church in Anoka County looking for them to get on board. And they have 7 active churches who have taken this on, and maybe you can't provide a home for foster kids, but you can bring a meal, you can give some respite care. So anyway, yes, it's exciting. If we wouldn't be county per se, but we certainly be.
I would encourage everyone to go look. They have a website that is just beyond belief. I mean, as far as describing how it all works and stuff, but it's called safefamilies.org, I do believe. Safefamilies.org. And
Didn't she also say there was some funding available?
A private donation?
No, I thought there was, but there was some funding that was available
there was
to us or something.
A donor that donated the money to fund the coordinator position, and Anoka County has offered to fund the coordinator.
Okay. I just remember her saying
it was a private donation from a very generous person apparently, and I think it's a foundation actually. I think I'm not sure.
It's a couple, but they may have a foundation.
But anyway, but the thing about this is it's away from the government, but there is a tie-in that we are going to be able to
work together.
Use this as a resource in our
together.
Country.
All right, I had a lot of meetings, but just go through them really quickly.
Sure.
The Turn, which is drug court, we have quarterly meetings now, and we have Gina Erickson from Hamline University is discussing the process evaluation form, and we saw a brief film about, just how addiction affects people. And for example, you have normal brain activity, and after 100 days with using cocaine, I mean, you've got a long-lasting change in your brain activity. So they're just talking so much about addiction, and this has been a great program for people, actually mentoring with them, intense supervision, and people that have been very successful and graduated from the program and have remained drug and alcohol free. Public Works Labor Management, we also talked about the Emerald Ash Borer there, but there is no salt in the state, so hopefully we won't have any more events. But they did purchase an ice slicer, it's called. It costs twice as much, but they've been able to kind of cut it into 2 so they can spread it further. But it's been quite the season, and I have to compliment our tow truck drivers who have been out beyond the call of duty this year.
Tow truck drivers or plow drivers?
Did I say tow truck? Yeah, plow drivers. And
but the tow truck drivers too, they were busy this year also.
They've been busy this year too, yes. A lot of people in ditches. The Safe Communities of Wright County, we reluctantly accepted the resignation of our director, who's been there for 18 years. So Pat Hackman has been a great hire, and so we'll be looking for a new person to take that position. A reminder that April is statewide distracted driving enforcement. May is statewide seatbelt enforcement. And we're going to get literature out for people to remind them to be safe drivers. There's a Just Drive update. Will be on April 27th, and that's started by the LaValle family when their son was killed by a distracted driver. And
didn't the hands-free or no cell phone use, didn't that go through the first committee?
It's passed.
It passed.
It passed.
It passed yesterday.
The legislators?
Yep.
Not the Senate yet, has it?
The House.
They got to reconcile it because the Senate has exception.
Different version?
Exemption for a GPS.
Yep.
So they have to go in conference committee and reconcile it.
So it looks like it's going to happen.
Yep.
And, well, the regional, Wright Regional Inspection Group met the AAS, and we got a nice punch list of, things coming up that we need to take care of as we're gearing up, so that's, going to have some more discussion on that.
AIS, I've been very busy with that, but on the other side of it, just keep it real short so Deb can get a few minutes here before we start our public hearing. Last week on Tuesday and Wednesday, I testified on 1708, which was Senator Utkey's bill regarding state-assessed properties and finding local governments harmless. That one was on Tuesday. I was back down there again on Wednesday to testify on, I'm sorry, these are Senate file 1708, and Wednesday was Senate file 1901, Senator Matthews' bill regarding the process by which the Department of Revenue uses in regards to the administrative reviews and state-assessed properties and trying to get their timeline to mesh more in line with that of what we use here in the county and what local governments use as well. Both committees went well. They're both still moving forward for possible inclusions. So more to come on that as we go down the road. I will kind of defer at that to be time sensitive. Here we have a public hearing coming.
Mr. Chair, if I could, just as a matter here, from the County Attorney's Office as part of the advisory here, I just want to advise the board as to the status of a couple bills that are going through the legislature right now that, if passed, will have a significant impact on the county budget. This is regarding civil forfeitures, House File 1971, and the companion Senate File 2155. What these bills would do is eliminate civil forfeitures, and the sponsors of these bills classify them as turning it into a criminal process, but what they're really doing is just repealing it through process. And at the end of the day, they take away any cost sharing that law enforcement and our office would enjoy or receive out of those forfeiture funds. And I think what these bills should really be called is make crime pay. Because what would happen is when the sheriff goes in and does a drug seizure on someone's house and they find $30,000 cash sitting in that house right next to a pile of drugs, when someone's been manufacturing meth or cocaine or marijuana, they have to leave it there. The person gets to keep it as soon as they're released out of jail.
What about the guns and anything else?
Have to go through the same process.
Just leave it there?
Leave it there. Yep. We just leave it there.
So it'll never be there the next day.
We'd never get it. And I think people have this idea that we're spending money for drugs on drug forfeiture funds and we're making a windfall on it. No one's traveling out of state in Minnesota doing these funds. No one's going to Hawaii. We're buying equipment. We're buying IT technology. A lot of the drug forfeiture funds that we have in our office right now will be used for a database upgrade. I think one of the best purchases we ever made from our drug forfeiture funds was actually to buy a binding machine for appellate briefs. We used to spend $500 on every brief to get it bound. We spent $3 to $4 grand on a binding machine. We saved this county over 30 grand so far.
But let's make it clear, though, when the current process takes the funds, and there still is an appeal process by the accused to get the funds back.
Yes.
It's not that it's guaranteedly lost.
No, there's still an appeal process. We still go through it in district court. You can file it in conciliation court. If you win, you get your filing fees back. And the costs and the tow fees are paid for by the county, through our drug forfeiture funds. And in talking with the sheriff, one of the interesting things I learned that's going to have an impact on the county budget is, right now they use drug forfeiture funds to go out and do a controlled buy. If this bill passes and we don't have drug forfeiture funds, that's not going to turn into levy dollars that are used to then go out and buy methamphetamines from some doper on the street, and taxpayers in this office are going to be paying for meth. I think that's what people need to understand. If this bill passes, you will be levying dollars to go out and buy meth. And when we find the person and arrest them afterwards, and we find the cash on them, we can't forfeit it back. So they get to keep it.
I think where this bill gets traction, though, is there's some counties, I hope not Wright County, that overutilize that, and it's abused, where somebody might have had drugs in their house and it's a married couple, whatever, and they didn't know what was going on, and then they lose all their, property and whatever else. So
But
I think it's abused in some counties, and that's where
Hard to
this
keep
is
that
getting
kind of stuff
traction.
secret though in your
Yeah.
house.
Respectfully, Commissioner Burrell, Minnesota doesn't have a problem. I think people take stories from Indiana. They had a bad case out of there that went to the Supreme Court. They take cases out of Mississippi and Alabama out of context. Minnesota, after the gang strike task force, did a great job reforming the forfeiture process.
I'm a
It
pretty
really
big
is great.
person on the Constitution, though, but it just
that?
doesn't, I'm a pretty big person believing in the Constitution, and I don't see anywhere where the forefathers laid that out, that if you commit a crime, we take all your property and whatever, so.
Greg, do you know who the
Don't allow you to
sponsors are on these
profit off
bills?
your-
Do
What's that?
you know what the sponsors are on these bills?
The sponsor in the House is Representative Lesh. Representative Lucero is a co-sponsor on the House file. In the Senate, the chief sponsor is Senator Newman, Senators Latz, Hall, Limmer, and Ralph.
Okay, so Limmer.
It could pass.
If it does, we'll be levying dollars for meth.
That-
Just so
But
the board's aware. Yep.
that's the way our country is supposed to work, though, Greg. It's
Yeah,
not,
that's-
we're not supposed to just be taking people's property.
Just letting the board know, if this passes, the levy will have an impact and we'll be buying meth with county dollars. So,
Quit buying meth.
well, stop doping.
All right,
Thank you.
anyways.
Recess.
Lee, do you have any quick to,
You know, I'm going to defer so we can have a break prior to the public hearing if possible.
sounds great. All right, well then we will take a short break here and we will reconvene at 10:30, so at this time, take a break.
Go ahead, Derek.
All right. We'll reconvene here. It's 10:30. This is a public hearing on ordinance number 19-2 for amendments to the Wright County restated and revised ordinance. I would like to welcome everyone who has come today. Prior to opening the public hearing on ordinance number 19-2, I'd like to review some of the rules for this meeting. This is a meeting of public record, and it is being live streamed. As such, discussions are not permitted in the gallery. Proper decorum is expected for all people in attendance. We all must follow a few simple rules to get a complete and accurate record of the meetings. All people or persons wishing to address the board must first sign at the table and drop them up in the white box up here. So those forms that you see right up front here, please fill those out and drop them in the boxes. We'll put you on the list here of people to speak. When I acknowledge you, please come up to the podium here where Mr. Chrysler's at and speak into the microphone. Only one person may speak at a time. Comments must be addressed to the board. You are not allowed to have dialogue with other members in the public. Please do not have back and forth conversations with the gallery. Please direct all comments here towards the board. In order to allow everyone the opportunity to address the board, comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. There is no, we are not allowing you to yield your time to other members, as there's a large number of people that would like to comment. The board has received and reviewed all letters submitted from the public. Comments previously submitted in this manner need not be repeated verbally. If you have anything in writing you wish to submit, you may provide it to me before the close of this public hearing today. So we have right here the 300 plus emails and letters that have been sent in over the last couple of weeks. So they are present. They have been shared and distributed amongst members here to review. To avoid any unnecessary distractions, please make sure your cell phones are turned off and silenced. Persons who create a disturbance or fail to follow these rules may be asked to leave the boardroom. The public hearing will start with staff giving a brief overview of the ordinance over here on the PowerPoint. After the close of the public hearing, the board will discuss this matter and then proceed to take action it deems needed. Would any board members wish to offer any further remarks before we begin with the presentation from the attorney's office? It's over to you, Greg.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I just wanted to cover very quickly on a PowerPoint here so everyone can see it. We also had handouts of the proposed ordinance amendment 19-2 outside the boardroom on the table. I think probably had enough for just about everyone here, I think, today, but they are out there if you didn't get one. So starting out here, to let everyone know what the county, we've got new IT equipment here. So this is our first time with us, so it kind of cut it off, but we'll fix it here eventually. But to kind of let everyone know what the county attorney's position here is on this ordinance amendment. First off, the Office of the Wright County Attorney is responsible for representing the county board. The county attorney's office does not make county policy. Our office does not take a position on the proposed ordinance, either for or against it. The duty of the Wright County Attorney's Office is to draft the proposed ordinance, which we did, and to assist in facilitating a discussion, which is what we're doing here today by doing this PowerPoint presentation. What you have before you are amendments to Section 131.07 of the Wright County Ordinance dealing with water surface use. What you see here in paragraph B are the proposed changes to the Wright Regional Inspection, or the lakes that would be requiring a mandatory inspection. What you see here is a strike-through of the current existing lakes, and then an add-in underlined of all the lakes that are being proposed to be added. The reason for the strike-through on the original prior 3 lakes is because this way we can get it into alphabetical order, and it's just a little cleaner for everyone to see it. So the lakes being added, proposed for being added, are Bass, Cedar, East and West Lake Sylvia, Granite, Lake John, Moose, Maple, and Sugar, and then Pleasant Lake at the end is being in this as well. One of the discussions that came from the AIS work group was a self-inspection exemption. The proposed ordinance creates this exemption. It's spelled out here. So a person launching water-related equipment shall be exempt from the requirements in paragraph B, which is what we just had on the prior slide, if they meet the following criteria. The person launching the water-related equipment has successfully completed an education course and test approved by the Wright Soil and Water Conservation District for personal inspection of aquatic invasive species. Person is certified by Soil and Water as meeting the educational requirements. And and the person launching the water-related equipment is the registered owner of the water-related equipment. Now, there's an amendment to that I will cover a little bit later, but this is what's currently in the form before the board. The fourth criteria is the water-related equipment is registered to the registered with the Wright Soil and Water Conservation District, and there is a decal displayed, issued by Soil and Water that's displayed on the water-related equipment. 5, a certificate issued by Soil and Water is fully displayed on the front dashboard of the vehicle that brought the water-related equipment to the landing. So just a display or permit of some sort that would just be on the dash, not affixed to the vehicle. So you can move it between vehicles. Number 6, upon request, a person must provide proof of successful completion of the educational course to a licensed peace officer, special deputy, or certified level 1 AIS inspector. And the person must complete a thorough inspection of the water-related equipment prior to launching it and immediately after removing it from any regulated public body of water. And lastly, the water-related equipment must be free of all prohibited aquatic invasive species. So the next paragraph here deals with if a person is found in violation, that the certification program that they would have would be void immediately upon finding that, and they would no longer be able to do a self-inspection. They'd have to go back to the regional inspection program and have their water-related, their boat inspected at the regional inspection. The next thing that came out of the work group was a winter storage exemption. This is for basically permitted lake service providers. If a boat is stored there for more than 21 days, basically meaning over winter, that they can document this, the water-related equipment that's been there for 21 days with the Soil and Water Office, and have an inspector actually come on site and inspect all visible areas of that boat. So this kind of goes through the criteria of it, and then at the end, the water-related equipment is tagged by the inspector. The next thing is a kind of a repealer or sunset provision in the event that the Commissioner of the Department of Natural Resources does not approve this formally. Something that came out of the work group was a sunset provision of April 15, 2019. If we don't get the formal approval from the Commissioner by that date, this amendment, and specifically Section 131.07, is repealed automatically if we don't get that approval from the Commissioner by April 15th. And then 3 amendments that we have. The first amendment is 19.2A. It allows, as I said, there was an amendment to the registered owner, adding or a family or household member as defined. I just took the statutory definition for it under 518B.01 subdivision 2 of the registered owner. So if a registered owner, you don't have to just be a registered owner of the boat. If you're a family member as defined, I'll give you the list of what qualifies as a family or household member. Right here would also be allowed to launch the boat. The person launching the boat still has to have the certification, but they can launch somebody else's boat. So if you're a son, you fall into that criteria, you're launching dad's boat. As long as dad's boat is registered, you can launch it provided you've met the certification requirements and the educational class. Number 2A permits up to 4 pieces of water-related equipment to be registered with Soil and Water. So each person is permitted to have 4. And then Amendment 19.2C. There was discussion from the work group last week about allowing lake service providers to also go through the exemption process. That wasn't originally anticipated in the amendment that was presented to you. So a lake service provider can register up to 4 pieces of equipment, and their employees can do a self-inspection program and also self-inspect a lake service provider's 4 pieces of registered water-related equipment. So with that, Mr. Chair, and that concludes my presentation. Maybe put this back to the lakes that are proposed to be added.
So before I go to the public comment, I want to ask fellow commissioners, because it'll be time sensitive, the DNR is not able to stay with us for the duration of this entire meeting. If there's any members from the county board that would like to ask of the DNR, as they will not be here potentially at the end of the public comment, I would like to give you the opportunity to ask those questions now, since they were so gracious to come here today.
Mr. Chair, wouldn't it be fair to have them speak first?
to the DNR? I just want to give an opportunity because they may not be here at the end when that's over with. So I want to give you an opportunity now. So
Perhaps they could come to the podium and perhaps make a comment.
Mr. Chair, I do have one question. If the DNR has modifications to this, do we have to have another public hearing?
To the plans or?
The amendment, so let's say that there's something they disagree with and they want changed, so we're going to have a public hearing, and I guess you can answer maybe that question.
Mr. Chair and committee members, the ordinance isn't related to the plan approval unless we would ask you we could ask for something to be removed from the plan because the ordinance isn't enforced by DNR watercraft inspectors or enforcement officers. The ordinance is separate. So the state statute is where we're getting authority that we delegate to the county, and that's how you're able to do the program. The ordinance was added because you guys were looking for a penalty, and there's not a current penalty in the state statute.
Greg, and to answer Commissioner Dahleiden's question, my assumption is that if we were removing aspects of the ordinance, we wouldn't actually have to have a public hearing because we would actually be diluting the ordinance, which basically would allow us to basically do that just through county board approval, correct?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, generally the requirement for a public hearing on an ordinance of this nature comes from the DNR commissioner because they request public hearings on anything related to water-related uses. Generally, there's nothing in the statute that would require a public hearing per se, but we generally we're having this public hearing because the DNR requested, really.
So if they would basically ask us to remove pieces but not ask, specifically request a public hearing with that request, then not necessarily would it be required. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Is there any statements you'd like to make at this point? You guys have gotten all of our information at this point, and you are in the process of reviewing it. I know at this point you guys have already sent some information over to Soil and Water for some clarification, and we are working on those responses at this time.
Excellent. Thank you.
And just for the record, I apologize I didn't catch your name.
For the record, Heidi Wolf, and I work with the Department of Natural Resources.
And then could I? Hang on one second. So you said if there was a penalty that the DNR would be more, but there is a penalty, right? We're going to be charging people with some kind of fine.
If there wasn't a penalty, then we wouldn't be in this process. But because we are inducing a penalty, that's the reason it's part of the ordinance, and that's the reason that the DNR is requesting this public hearing, and that's why we're creating an ordinance. Yep. Okay, we'll start opening up the public hearing at this time. Remember, 3 minutes, and if you decide at this time, if after you hear other people speak, you'd like to come and speak, please fill out one of these forms and drop them in the box. We'll just keep adding to the list. Please only comment one time. I'm going to ask Kevin Farnham if you'd like to come up and speak first. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you for letting me be here again, but I was not here the last time, so thank you, Mr. Commissioner and fellow commissioners, Chairman, excuse me. I wanted to be sure to correct, my name is Kevin Farnham. I'm from Cronus Lake Association. I manage all of the AIS activities on Cronus Lake for Starry Stonewort. And I was informed that there was a statement that was made on one of the past meetings, and I just wanted to be sure to correct that. And I guess what a little of this is to kind of let you know how bad is, just to let you know. So Starry Stonewort on Lake Coronis, in some of the shallow areas and stuff, is pretty much unbearable and has stopped people from using either the shore owners, but other people from going through that area, from recreational boating, and just even going fishing through these areas, because the Starry Stonewort mass, when it was first discovered, was so near the surface, in about 8 feet of water, that it was pretty substantial. But you got to recognize that there's some areas of the lake where the water is deeper, where the Starry Stonewort is not that way. And I was told that someone had come to you and said, well, I have an aunt that's on this lake and it's not a big deal. And that is absolutely correct. There are some areas that are not. But what we are finding, and that is, when I say we, that's not only the Lake Association, but that's through DNR, the AIS specialists, that the Starry Stonewort just continues to spread and continues to grow out. and other areas become high priorities and stuff. So part of that statement was correct, but don't let yourself be fooled how serious these invasives are, and particularly the starry stonewort. And just to give you an idea, in 2016, I put some numbers together. We spent $90,000 about to just manage a small area of the lake, probably about 11 acres. And that was a pilot project through the Initiative Foundation. In 2017, which was a repeat kind of the previous year, we spent about $70,000 towards managing that. And understand that includes manage it and my time and in-kind services. It's just to give you kind of a rough idea. In 2018, where we treated over 200 acres was managed, we spent around $270,000. So just to give you a sense of what that is, in 2019, we're looking at and we're working closely, very closely with DNR to manage 118 acres, and we anticipate that that's going to cost us around $180,000. Now, that does not count the inspection stuff, that programs that we have going on, which last year was $83,000 for the whole watershed. We treat it as a watershed issue because whatever comes in on Rice Lake comes to Cronus. Whatever comes in on Grove Lake comes on to Cronus because it's all part of the North Fork of the Crow River.
Please just make sure everybody's finish up though, just so everybody's on the 3 minutes.
Yep, just about done.
Yep.
So we too, just like you would be on this project, are struggling with the finances and stuff. We're trying to figure out what can we do and how can we do that. So we're looking at various avenues and stuff to do that. You know, the thing I wanted to point out is that the very few tools are given to us as citizens from the legislature to manage AIS. But it was through your ordinance last year that you took one of the tools on. You embarked last year on piloting one of those tools that no one else had been able to embark on. And so I wanted to do the mandatory inspection on these 3 lakes. You did the right thing and gave the rest of the state's people that care about the lakes hope in really trying to go down that. So I want to encourage you. I've got about 5 things. I encourage you to allow its full potential of the ordinance with the addition of more lakes to be piloted. I encourage you to let it continue with enforcement, especially since the financial part has been determined for the next year. If the financial piece is there, let it continue. Don't use that, please don't use that as a reason to stop it. If it's been figured out for the next year, every year you do a pilot, you learn, and it's going to help not only Wright County, but it's going to help the state. I encourage you to not be discouraged if DNR isn't the partner that you want them to be. They're working within the mandates of what they have. You're working with what you have. Encourage you to protect the lakes in Wright County, and encourage you to be responsible to others, moving the AIS around. People will, you have to be responsible just like people have to be responsible to not move the AIS around. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up will be Jeff Stabnow. Thank you, Jeff, for coming here. Please state your name and address the board. Thank you.
My name is Jeff Stabnow, live in Otter Tail County, and I've been on the Otter Tail County Task Force, Aquatic Invasive Task Force. Traveled around and actually lived in Annandale in 1985, worked on the construction of the Sherco 3 powerhouse back in that time. Also lived out west in Nevada and went to Lake Tahoe, where they have mandatory inspection. You go to either private or public, get your decon, pay as you go. They inspect as you go in. They view the tag as you break away. I think they've modified it now so that they'll give you a clean tag as you come off to go to some other. I don't know the particulars of that. Also lived in Missoula and Flathead Lake. Coming into there's about a half a dozen different intersections so that the mandatory inspection out there can be managed more clearly. So I think you're making good progress and steps to do this type of with the least inconvenience to the traveling boaters on there. So we as Otter Tail County Task Force are watching your progress here and looking at making similar steps on our lakes up in Otter Tail County. So,
Has your county board been having any discussions yet in terms of wanting to move forward with any?
Yeah, the county board has been very active and supportive of our efforts. In fact, Lee Rognus was the chairman at the time and said, when Lake Region Hospital gets some kind of an undeal, they quarantine till they get a handle on it. And so that's been put out there as a real vital interest and concern about these efforts.
So there's, you foresee any potential chance of an ordinance enact in Otter Tail County potentially in the 2020 year?
We're following yours and have been very active in participation with Blaine and the efforts here. So we're very, very supportive of this, and we'll be following along.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
It's public, but there's more than just Otter Tail County that's watching us closely. I've gotten calls and that from fellow commissioners in different counties that have a lot of lakes that are watching us to see what we're doing here, and they are very interested in what transpires here.
Blaine, Barkley, your next opportunity.
Not that you haven't seen me before.
Thanks, Blaine.
Do I have permission to approach the board?
Yeah, absolutely.
Should have had your accomplice do this. You're wasting your time.
I'll pause.
This is
I got it.
This is self-explanatory once you start looking at it. What I'm handing out for you is I spent time on the DNR website. This shows every lake in Wright County.
Thank you.
That has,
Mr., can I have one more copy?
has AIS in it.
Thank you.
I've also included, I also went on and I looked to see, I believe 18 public parks that are either on lakes or on rivers. And virtually none of those parks have really any protection of consequence. You have right now 50 lakes in Wright County that have AIS in them. We have a new one that's just moved into the county, and that is flowering rush. That appears in Maple Lake and Granite Lake, and that is a very serious invasive species. I've also given you a color map printed. This, believe it or not, I didn't do it, and I didn't stack the deck. But if you go to this page back here, it shows AIS in Wright County in 1993, and it shows the only infected lakes in 1993 had Eurasian milfoil, and that was Clearwater Lake, a lake over by Silver Creek, and one other one. There was only 3. If you speed forward to the 2015 map with all the little colored dots on it, that shows you this is not just a problem for Annandale. This is a problem for the whole county. This stuff is spreading throughout the whole county. Hopefully, Commissioner Vetch, are you missing?
Yep, that's all right.
The back page.
Brings it there.
This is most current this is as of 2015. Since then, we've had several more move in. This is primarily showing Eurasian milfoil. Since then, we've had starry stonewort, we've had zebra mussels, we've had quite a few different invasives move into the county. And what I'm trying to point out is you have major investments in your county parks, and they are largely unprotected I also printed out, I looked at your county park regulations. I look at how much trouble you can get into doing something incorrectly in a county park. It's rather extensive, and yet there is virtually nothing protecting your lakes that these county parks are relying upon, lakes or rivers. So I leave that to you for information. If you have questions, I'm free to take questions at any time. Christine knows how to get hold of me, but I provide that to you for what's going on in Wright County. It's not just western Wright County. Every major lake in Wright County has invasive species in it. I would venture Wright County is the most, has more invasive species in it than any other county in Minnesota by lake surface area. Every big major lake in Wright County has invasive species in it at this point. And I've also given you a list of the invasive species that are on the DNR watch list. Some people say, well, if you've already got them, why do you do anything? Well, why do you do anything is because there's a whole lot more coming that the DNR is worried about that have not hit our lakes yet. Most recently was the flowering rush. That wasn't here just a couple of years ago, and that's here now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Exactly on 3 minutes.
Right on 3 minutes. Nice job. All right, Mary Wetter. Thank you, Mary.
I'm Mary Wetter, and I'm on the Wright Soil and Water Conservation District Board. I live in Rockford Township, or Buffalo address. I guess I noticed today, well, a few days ago, on your consent agenda, you approved to authorize the county board members to meet with Senator Bruce Anderson and the DNR Commissioner Sarah Strawman on March 21st at 3 p.m. in St. Paul. And I was curious who of your members there were going, and what do you hope to solve or get from that we this kind of just came up at the end of last week, and so we put on the consent agenda to authorize. Senator Anderson requested that just elected officials be part of this meeting, and we really just want to have a conversation with the DNR commissioner to let her know our stand and to really find out her philosophies and support for our efforts in this aquatic invasive species. I haven't you know, kind of figured out points exactly, you know, to try to be as brief or as possible, but as concise. So, yeah. So any
comments that people, I will be there, and Commissioner Potter just told me that he'd be there, and I don't know who else.
Well, I will say that I see this as either way, regardless of this program or with or without this program. We as a county, we have to start fostering our relationships with the DNR, because ultimately we have to partner together in no matter what we do to combat this. This is kind of finding out that precipitating those conversations that we need to have more regularly as to what we can do to solve the situation, and whether it's within this program or not, and finding out what things of this program they find merit in and maybe which things they do not, so we can hopefully go back to the drawing board in our small work groups to bring forward things that have a pattern for success.
Okay.
Yeah, we really want to build a good relationship.
And Mr. Chair, I'll just add to that. Mary, just to meet with Sarah is the fact to let her get to know what's going on here, because it's been a little frustrating at times with that the communications line isn't there. Plus, they have her try to explain to us some of the challenges in regulations, rules, statutes that they're facing, and why it seems like they're butting heads with us, but there might be more to the picture than meets the eye, and try to, how do we work through this so we can all achieve clean water and good lakes? And so I applaud her for taking the time. As you know, I've talked to you this before, in prior years, recently. I have not had this opportunity to meet with the commissioner. They've taken the point of, we're just not interested, I don't have time, gone. So I applaud Sarah for taking the time to actually meet with us, and I'm hoping that we can get a better understanding, both sides of the issue and all the things, so they know what we're facing, we know what they're facing.
I know Sarah Strauman from years ago when she was on the Board of Water and Soil Resources, and she was an assistant there. And when I was back on the our association board, I knew her from a little, not really well, but she is very open to suggestions and stuff, so I think she'll very openly meet with you and discuss things.
And Mr. Chair, one more item. In discussions with the now Governor Tim Walz prior to the election, I mentioned my frustration with this pilot program and some of the things going on, and I think he took it to heart that he was going to make some changes there, and I applaud him for making changes, and hopefully this is for a positive for all of us. So that's what I'm looking forward to, is that maybe the culture's changed there.
And thank you for setting up a meeting with her. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary. Next, Mark Johnson. Thank you, Mark. Up to the podium.
Thank you. I'm Mark Johnson. I own property at 10559 Hollister Avenue, which is on Sugar Lake. First off, I'd like to say I support your efforts. This is a real problem that does need to be addressed. And I mean, no disrespect to the representative here from the DNR personally, but I feel the DNR has been inept in historically, not only recently, but historically in addressing the AIS problem. So again, I applaud you for trying to do something. The personal certification, has that program been outlined? Do you know how that's going to take place?
We are basically, we're just entering into our second small group meeting on it. We are working very, very hard on getting it together. The goal is to hopefully have our first classes available April 20th if the DNR approves it by April 15th. That's about as quick as we feel we could market it and get it out. We don't want to hold any classes prior to April 15th until there's DNR approval. If the DNR would approve it sooner than April 15th, could the classes be sooner than that? Potentially, but we're planning on, at this point, starting at April 20th.
Okay, and that leads, one of my questions was, I'll direct it to you, maybe you can direct it to the DNRs. What is their temperature in approving this? Are they on board and or?
The DNR has not weighed in on the self-inspection piece at this time. They sent their first set of questions back to Soil and Water in regards to the at-the-ramp inspection model that we're using this year for the enforcement piece. That's not to say that the DNR won't have questions regarding the self-inspection piece. They're, I'm guessing, going through it piece by piece, and we'll probably get more questions as they get through the entire plan.
Okay, then, you know, we're in a time crunch here. If you know, the end of April, ice, depending, you know, we've had a harsh winter, but ice could come out 1st of May, and I want to put my boats in 1st of May. If that program, if I'm not able to take that course and get self-certified by then, what's going to happen?
You will be, definitively, because if the DNR doesn't approve the plan by April 15th, the entire program is non-existent.
Right.
So we know that's the reason we have multiple classes that are scheduled. We're tentatively having about 4 classes between April 20th and May 1st. We want to make sure that we accommodate a large volume amount of people that would want to take the self-certification classes prior to ice out. You know, ice out could be as early as April 23rd, but we're trying to get it, so we're taking that into consideration when scheduling these classes.
Okay, will there be a cost for that?
Cost hasn't been vetted out, but there will be a small fee just to cover the printing cost of the cards and that. I would say we're looking somewhere between $20 and $40 for the class.
And then the water-related equipment registered, allowed up to 4 pieces, must have a decal. has it been determined where that decal would need to be displayed?
Basically, we're looking at like parking hangers that you would have for like a parking pass at like a school lot that would hang from your mirror. That would be the piece that we'd use. There'd be a similar one that would be on the boat, and then you'd have an actual card that would go into your wallet. I'm sorry, I'm going to stop that timer, but we'll continue here. We're having dialogue, so that would be what those pieces would look like.
So it likely won't be an adhesive sticker?
No, if you want, because you can transfer it. The intent is to be able to take it from, if you have 3 boats, you're going to use the same hanger for all boats.
Okay.
But you could do, basically there'd be an additional fee if you wanted to get more than 1 hanger. Say you wanted to use 2 boats in the same day, there'd be an additional $5 charge to get the second printed hanger.
Okay.
Because each boat will have a different number, right? Registration number.
That would be what, they would do that when they sign up for the self-inspection class. They would give the 4 boats or 2 boats that you want to have identified to you for usage.
Okay. And maybe I missed, I read over the ordinance, maybe I missed currently how it states, but is there any provision, you know, me personally and a lot of my neighbors, our boats go in, they stay there all summer, we take them out, mine are sitting at home in my shed. This spring I'll take and put them back in the water, they don't go anywhere else. In the fall, when I take my watercraft out, could it be just inspected then, and then I can just bring it back in the spring and put it back in without having to go to the inspection station or any other protocol?
The tag is good until the tag is broken, the seal. So if you took it up to this station in town in the fall and you got inspected, as long as it didn't go into the water, that tag is still good, and you could wait till the following season to launch.
But what I'm saying is when I take it out of the water at the landing, you know, can it be inspected there? And, you know, I go home and come back. And I'm okay with some inconvenience to help this problem, but to what level? You know, I've got 3 pieces of watercraft, so, you know, that's 3 trips into town and, you know, the logistics of it. So,
yeah, and that's, you know, at the end of the season, right now there wouldn't be any way that we were having discussions through a procedural side with the enforcement piece that there'd be people inspecting at the ramps, and would we allow those ones because they could be at any 1 to 3 ramps at any given time. Would we allow them to tag people when they're coming out at that time for reentry? It's still in discussions through committee. There hasn't been an answer on that yet. But there could be the chance.
Those are just things from a lake owner's standpoint that we think about.
We want to be as user-friendly as we possibly can, but also trying to protect the lakes as well.
Yep.
So.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike, Wright, Maple Lake.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for letting me address the board. My name is Mike Raish. I'm a current board member of the Maple Lake Property Owners Association and past president for a number of years. A number of us are here in support of, in general, of this program. As an organization, we're not here to ask for money. I've been to a number of these meetings here, and it's never been part of it. We're here to ask that you let this group try to put together a plan to manage AIS infestation. I've been to a number of these commissioner meetings here, and I think 2 messages really come through pretty clear. One of them is let the organization have a chance in general to manage this program. The second part of the message that comes through is to do nothing really isn't an answer because there's so much going on with AIS. In general, I think this is really, from a personal side, I think this is really what government should be about. Let the people put together a plan, let them manage it, let them measure the success or failures and adjust. It will either sustain or it'll die from there. We're not trying to, as a lake association, block out access. I don't think any lake association has ever had conversations about that. I think they spend money on fish stocking, they spend money on controlling weeds, and everybody benefits from that. We're really trying to send a message to be responsible and careful on what they transport to the lakes. Once these resources are damaged, it'll become very difficult to fix. I think Lake Coronas is a great example of an issue that could surface in all the lakes in Wright County and just cause property values, just a number of issues, devastation. Money is always an issue. There could be a chance that this program will run out of money and that alone will kill the program. So again, we're here from the Lake Association side to urge that you guys let a program like this go through and sustain at least for a year or 2 years as it goes on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Mr. Chair, and I agree. Doing nothing is not an answer. We've got to do something. People will disagree with us with methodology, and some people want it to the nth degree, and we're just getting started here. It's like an infant. The other thing is just make the public aware that no matter what ordinance, no matter what we pass as a policy, an ordinance, or program, we cannot close down a DNR landing. Only they have the power to do that. We do not have that power. So the people that claim that we're going to privatize these lakes, that's not happening. We don't have that power.
And I think lake associations have gotten tagged as a group that is leading to close down these. And, you know, and it, to me, it's just the farthest from what's really wanted or expected out of, I mean, you guys have as many beaches at these public, Pulaski, right in town here in Buffalo. I mean, you get a problem at those, I mean, everybody's going to be affected. So from the Lake Association side, we just want to thank you for at least taking a leadership role in this.
Thank you, Mike. Next is Mr. Dave Boy.
Commissioners, thank you. My name is David Boy. I'm a resident on Pleasant Lake, and I also belong to the on the board of Pleasant Lake Improvement Association. I'm here to voice my support for this program, but in saying that, I know this is not a perfect program. I think we all know that. But with, and I'm sure if we had unlimited funds, we could design a program that would work for everybody and they'd all be happy. But the fact is, you made it abundantly clear, the county doesn't have the money. The DNR doesn't have the money. The lake associations are being stretched about as far as they can, and unless something I'm not aware of, I don't believe the fishing community has a big war chest to address AIS. So what we've got is a situation where we have to be very cost efficient in running this program, and I think what this is a very cost efficient program. I've looked at all kinds of other recommendations and what we should do, and they just can't stack up as far as cost efficiency.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Questions? Great. Next will be Peter Pashek. Did I say that correct?
Yes, you did.
All right.
No arthritis, so I'm slow and might tip over on people.
Can you hear me? Well, thank you, Commissioners. I'm going to read, because I can do that in 3 minutes, and I'll leave you a copy. So my name's Peter Peshek. My wife and I bought a place on Granite in 2007, and we're absolutely love it there. On Granite, I volunteer as a lake plan coordinator, and since January 2017, I volunteered with WRIP. My focus, I'm a retired scientist, and my focus there is on understanding the spread of AIS and enhanced decontamination methods. I've been a Minnesota boy all my life, born in Duluth, raised in Askov. My dad grew rutabagas, and except for the Army, I've lived in Minnesota my whole life. I spent a lot of time in the woods and on the water. I hunt deer and grouse, I canoe. I probably have done 150 miles in the Boundary Waters, winter camped on skis and snowshoes, probably 20 or 30 nights in the woods, never when it was going to be below zero. That's the limit. My wife and I raced small sailboats, and now we tow our kids on floaties behind our pontoon. I was raised to leave things better than I found them. And against that ethic, I'm really concerned about the future of our lakes. The U.S. wasn't sufficiently careful about what ships entering the Great Lakes might have in their ballast tanks. Other states neglected the problem or took ineffective steps and it got away from them. And a lot of our boaters have not been sufficiently careful inspecting and cleaning their equipment. And so here we are. Swimming, boating, water skiing, sailing, enjoying a beautiful lake are at risk. You cannot drive a sailboat through a pile of weeds and catch a puff without the thing tipping over, okay? It's not a matter of being, you just cannot do it when there's that much weeds. And there's a lot of sports, water sports that are like that. So we need this program, and we need the support from our DNR. Others have said, but I'm really close to this thing. WIRP is a first. It's an experiment seeking a way to make it work for everybody. So we all get to keep the lakes we love, and they'll be in reasonable condition. So the program's imperfect, but since I'm on Granite, we have like 70 homeowners there. At our annual meeting in April, I'm going to commit that everybody on Granite, I'll have to explain the rules, everybody on Granite's going to have my cell number. And if they have trouble, I'm not going to run to I live in Maple Grove, I'm not going to run out to, try to officiate. But I will track down what happened and find out, who did what and how did it work out and what were their expectations. For this thing to work, it has to be a two-way street. We have to have users learn how the program works, and the program has to be responsive to users. If it doesn't work out like that, we're all going to die. It's just going to take us longer to get there, okay? So we really have to make that work. And finally, the central question, which others have mentioned, is that, can we find a way to be effective against AIS to keep users reasonably happy, and can we afford it? So, the question is, what's it worth to us in money, time, and hassle to the towns, to us, and the county to have clean lakes versus nasty lakes? My grandson is not going to jump into a lake where it looks like floating vomit, excuse me for being a little picturesque, but that's where we are. So thanks for your attention, and Granite has voted to be part of the program. There's great enthusiasm. Vote was near unanimous at the last spring session. We had 50 people in Township Hall out on Albion Township Hall, and there was 2 guys that raised their hands against. Everybody else was for. So.
Well, thank you, Peter, for all your individual efforts, as well as coming here today and sharing your thoughts and what can be done with the program.
Problem for a retired guy, I'll tell you that.
Mr. Chair, Peter?
Commissioner Burrell, Peter?
Sorry.
If I might.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm just thinking because the whole thing, there's no one here, I voted against this, in the past because I just don't see the future funding, but I want invasives and I want nice water and everything else, so that's not the answer, but the question, but if I took you just as an individual and said, would I ever have to worry about you contaminating another lake with invasive species? And I would probably say no. You're a conscientious person. You're aware. You've done some training and whatever. And I'm just wondering if the biggest thing out of this, has been the public perception right now and the advertising. This has been the best thing out of this entire proceedings. But if we had, let's say the DNR had a statewide training program for AIS and a person could get self-certified. I farm, and we have certain chemicals that we put on, we have to be certified in those chemicals. Every year, we go through the original training, and then we go through a refresher course. And I think it works, and I'm just wondering what your feeling on that would be, because we're going to have the self-certification. Is it something that you would feel maybe like a DNR could embrace and do that training, even if there was a small cost?
Yeah, my dad was a rancher, grew up on a ranch in North Dakota. He's probably the last generation of cowboys from out there. And I enjoy reading Louis L'Amour books, and there when the guy's going to really have it out, he reads from the book at them. What I take your point. I have been at a landing, and I've been tired, tempted, but I cleaned it up, I think, so the way I look at this problem is perfect is too expensive, but what you can do is to reduce risk, okay? So I worked at Pillsbury, food science and food safety. The way we look at reducing risk for foods is you don't have a nuclear bomb ingredient that kills all the bugs, because that would, that'd be pretty bad for people too, okay? So you have a cascade of steps where you reduce the risk here, you reduce the risk there, you reduce the risk there. If I could take a factor of 100 out one time in one step, a factor of 1,000 the next, now I'm at 100,000 lower, okay? Never going to get to zero. So what I'm saying is we need to have people understand that kind of a concept, and we need to people to really, really take this on board. I could be the guy who let that lake get sick, okay? And if we don't have people taking it on board at that level, got people who have the what could happen mentality, those are going to be an issue. So that's
I love how you
see
just connected this program to a HACCP plan.
It's hazard analysis, critical control points. Kevin Farner. Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Exactamundo.
Yep.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Any more?
No, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anybody else that still, we have quite a few to go here, but if anybody still wishes to comment, feel free to come up and grab a card and fill it out and drop it in the box here. Just like to keep an idea of how many people like to still comment. Next would be Chris Hector.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Chris Hector, and I'm the president of the Wright County Regional Inspection Coalition. Mostly, I wanted to express my gratitude for the work that's been done, particularly in the last 6 months, with the board, with the AIS advisory group. I think 3 years ago when we started working down this, there were a lot of people and a lot of groups that we had to speak with. We had to move things along, and I believe that we've got the dialogue going. I believe we've got good science, we've got good technology, and we have an opportunity here as a county to share something which needs to be in the arsenal of things that we could do. And your support for this amendment, your support for another year is allowing us to do things that we couldn't do last year. And already there have been a number of innovations to the program to try and make it better. And that's ultimately the goal here, is to be able to get this out there, show what can be done, and have that dialogue. And I applaud you for meeting with the DNR commissioner. I think that's a really positive step. I want to encourage you to approve this amendment, move this forward, and one last time, I'd like to thank you for your time and attention to this really important issue. Thank you.
And then, Chris, just a question, because I know I want to make sure that you were in the last meeting, didn't have a chance to have the conversations, those last two amendments to the amendment. You were with the family piece to it and the lake service providers. Any comments or questions regarding those two?
No, I think those are reasonable amendments. I think it moves it forward. I think the self-inspection piece really has a new wrinkle, and I think it's moving forward in a way that we can demonstrate that. I'm very much hoping that we can get some good data, and we can share that with the DNR, and perhaps this is something that that they can look at elsewhere.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next, Doug Flat.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, my name is Doug Flatts. I live on Moose Lake, one of the lakes that we hope to be included in next year's program. I'm also a member of the coalition. I guess I'd just like to take a minute to remind you of the long-range impact of what you do and we do in the coming days. We are, in some ways, blessed with having contacts with folks like Scott Brown, who talked to us a couple weeks ago about the impact of what happened to Michigan and their experience in going from a couple lakes that had started stormwater a few years ago to now they have over 1,000 to 1,200 lakes infected, and the economic impact and the public usage of those lakes, how they're affected. So that's something we can learn from. We need to take steps to learn how to avoid that, obviously. The next is the comment that Dr. Preshik had about cutting down the odds, learning something that would eliminate some of the chances of being infected. That it's not something you do with one big project that eliminates everything immediately. It's a learning process, and I believe that's what this project is. It's a learning process to make things better, to cut down the odds, to get it to 50, to 40, to 10, maybe 5% of all the chances of getting a lake affected accomplished. One of the things the project does is to put things in the spotlight, like inspections, for instance. It was noted that a number of inspections this year at the regional site were not what they could have been. I suspect those same inspections are going on at every landing that has an inspector at it. It's the same quality. But that brought to light a process that needed to be fixed. And I think the folks are well aware of that problem, are taking steps to improve it. So all these things come together to make a process where you eliminate the chance of getting infected. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Connie Crane. Thank you, Doug. Connie?
Well, I'm Connie Crane, and I have a place on Bass Lake. I'm on the Bass Lake board, Bass Lake Association Board of Wright County. And
Connie, could you speak a little louder so I can?
I'll do my best.
You can move the mic towards
outdoor voice, please.
Okay. And we're very interested in joining the inspection program because, like all, prevention is far more cost-effective than treatment of new invasives. And so we wanted to encourage you to enlarge the program as the ordinance this year would, so passage of the ordinance would help. I guess that's it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Connie. Karen Lohr, Lone.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners, for letting us speak to you, too. I'm Karen Lawn, and I am president of the Cedar Lake Conservation Club. And I've spoken before, but I wanted to say today, first of all, thank you. I just am impressed with how this process has been working, and not only you as the board, but also the members of the coalition. I think it's a real demonstration of coming up with a project and then listening and being sensitive, receptive, and responsive as issues are brought forward. And I think the changes that are now proposed illustrate that sensitivity and responsiveness to the issues that have been brought up. And so I appreciate that. I appreciate the hard work. Cedar Lake is totally on board, committed long-term, both energetically and financially, to being part of this program, and working as it evolves. We intend to evolve with it. So thank you.
Thank you, Karen. So we have just a few more people left. Is there anybody else that'd like to fill out a card and make comments for the record? Feel free to come up here and grab one of these sheets and fill it out. Next would be Joe Schneider.
Mr. Chair and members of the board, my name is Joe Schneider. I'm the president of the Minnesota Coalition of Lake Associations. I live in the Twin Cities area on Christmas Lake. I have three comments for you. Number one, I am thrilled that you're going to meet with the new DNR commissioner, because if you want to find out where it's going, if you want to find out can they be responsive to your timetable, which is very short, I think a direct conversation is really good. So I'm really glad you're doing that. Number two is I am extremely concerned about the self-inspection piece of it. I don't like that program to start with because it requires personal responsibility, and that's been the DNR's motto on AIS. If you get them smart, if you charge them with personal responsibility, you will not have a problem. Well, we know what's happened with that. So I'm not supportive of that in general, and I would say we as Mincola are not supportive of that in general, but I'm extremely concerned about the amendment you are suggesting that allows a disconnect between the person that takes the self-inspection training, self-certification training, and the watercraft.
Explain.
That there are family members who can launch the watercraft.
No, so basically, the amendment basically allows, so if you have if my boat, my 18-year-old son could, basically, if he went through the class, he can use my boat because he went through the class. I'd still have to go to if I didn't go to the class, even though it's my boat, I'd still have to go to the inspection station.
That's
yeah, but
fine.
just basically before the original ordinance was written that you had to own the boat that you were going to launch, we wanted to amend it so that if you're using a family member's boat, and you can't basically register more than 4 boats
That's
to yourself.
great. So you have to have done the certification training, and the boat has to be registered.
Yep.
Okay. I'll let that
That's
one.
good, but it was, yeah.
I didn't quite get that when we described the amendment. Number 3, the repealer. I am extremely concerned that you're putting this program at risk with the DNR not being able to get you a conclusion and approved plan by April 15th. That's, I'm glad you're going to talk to the commissioner, but I'm extremely concerned that they're not going to get to your timetable, and then this is going to get shot and stop.
The hardest part about it is if we don't have a decision by April 15th, even if the repealer was removed, we would be going to the point then where we would be opening and we wouldn't be able to even facilitate those other lakes, much less being able to operate under at the ramp inspections. So at some point we had to draw a line in the sand saying either you say yes or no, thumbs up, thumbs down. That's just because we have to have staff time to make that move. So,
Mr. Commissioner, Mr. Chair, I appreciate that. I would just ask that you perhaps adjust it so you have some flexibility. You could perhaps start with the same program as last year and then work into the broader program. I mean, to just throw the baby out with the bathwater if it's not April 15th seems very
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Tough.
I'd like to address that a little bit. The April 15th, it puts the DNR notice. We want you to, take a position somewhere. So Joe Q public out there that's been railing on me like you wouldn't believe, they'll know that, hey, DNR either support it, against it, no comment. They'll know where they stand, and then you can go after them and say, guys, do something. We need you to be a partner on this. We don't need you to put up roadblocks. We don't need you to make it hard for us to do the right thing, because we don't want to be Michigan. We don't want that. We don't want what's on Lake Coronas. We don't want that. But we need them as the partner on this in order to make all this happen. And we do need to, with the family things, we do need to make it a little bit more friendlier so to get more buy-in from more people. So it's not perfect. Absolutely, it's evolving. It's in a process. You got to crawl before you walk, before you run. We've got to get more people say, okay, I'm not overly thrilled with it, but I understand what the idea is. You're trying to protect the asset.
The hardest thing that basically is we were trying to prevent is what happened the first year in 2017. The goal was to open in August, and basically through just drawn out process and drawn out by the DNR to give approval of it, we ended up getting the entire season lost.
2 weeks.
Yep.
Right.
And we're trying to, we want them to just, we've given them enough time. If they don't think they are inkling on wanting to approve it in 6 weeks, I don't think they're going to want to approve it in 12 weeks. And that's...
Yeah, I just would encourage you to have a backup plan. because
We have worked as terms of our backup option is going to go to at the ramps, and we've already, Alicia, we have already kind of looked at putting together schedules of what it would look like if that was not approved by the DNR, correct?
Mr. Chair, another thing. I don't anticipate the DNR wait until April 15th to make their mind up. I anticipate that they're going to want to take this serious and do something with it because there's a whole lot of people watching right now, and no government agency likes to be under the microscope, you know?
Well, I agree with you, and I hope you're right.
Thank you. No, but your concerns are noted.
Thank you.
Yes.
Would you like me to address?
Yeah,
the
at least
backup?
address the question so that we, yeah.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Alicia O'Hare, Wright Soil and Water Resource Specialist. And just to clarify on one point, if the DNR doesn't approve this by April 15th, we can't operate regional inspections at all. We can't run it on Sylvia, John, and Pleasant. We have nothing, because the previous approval was only for 2018. So, and that's part of the reason we asked for the repealer, so that we knew if we needed to go to an at-the-ramp scenario. So we are putting things into place so that we can have at least some at-the-ramp inspections at these participating lakes, if that's not the case. So we are doing our best to plan for any funds from the local AIS prevention aid to go to at-the-ramp inspections if the regional inspection program is not approved. So, but like I said, if it does get delayed, like the DNR doesn't approve it until June, we could not do anything on those ramps without taking money away from the regional inspection program to do something.
And just so that I'm under the same understanding that you are, that we would still, if it was turned down by or on April 15th, we would still have to enter into a new contract for at-the-ramp inspections, because our current contract, we would have to modify that contract because only part of the lakes in Wright County are on at-the-ramp inspections. The other ones are wrapped into the contract with the RIP program, and basically we would have to remodify that contract.
Yes, we would have to modify our contract with our, we have Bishop AIS Services is our contract to employ the inspectors, but I do believe that our district manager has the authority to alter that contract so that we don't necessarily need to go through our board, and we can act quickly to do so. Okay. And Mary and the members of the board that are here could correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that we gave Luke some. You are correct. I am? Okay, yeah, so that he can just, yes, we want to shift these things, and Jefferson can do the contract, so we're good, we can do it quickly.
I thought we tried to make sure that we had discussions, that we were trying to make this as fluid as possible, because we knew that there was a lot of decisions that might have to make changes at the last minute, so.
Correct.
All right. Next is Steve, is it Scott Radke?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Board. I applaud the efforts of moving forward with this program. I do have some challenges, though. The 9 lakes that are involved on this, all of them have AIS in some way, shape, or form. So now what you're doing is you're asking the boats to be checked before they go into the lakes rather than when they leave. When you have a hospital unit that has a quarantined area, you don't wash your hands before you go in, you wash your hands when you come out. The challenge I have is for Wright County is you're inspecting the boats before they come in. We already have invasive species. I'm on Sugar Lake. We discovered zebra mussels last year. It was like a kick in the teeth. It's awful. I don't want anyone else in Wright County to have to experience that what moment. The challenge is we have to work on behavior modification, and I hope that the evolution of this program is going to change for an exit program rather than an entrance program. We have Eurasian milfoil, we have curly pond leaf, we have zebra mussel in Sugar Lake. You have buffalo, you have Pulaski, you have Maple Lake, you have granite, you have bass. If you look at the DNR website, they show you what's infected. The problem is with this program, an entrance isn't the end solution. It has to be an exit as well, because someone can leave Clearwater Lake, doesn't have to be inspected, and then can come to another lake. Clearwater has a number of invasive species. If I have them on Sugar Lake and I have villagers that are in my live well or on my line for my anchor because I'm a boater, and I want to move to the next lake, I'm now transporting that to the next lake. So I think the program has to evolve a little bit further. And again, it becomes, there's a lot of behavior modification. Someone smart in the DNR stated to me that statement. The behavior modification has to take place in what needs to be done. We have to work on the exit program for lakes that are infected. We don't want to take that infection and keep spreading it knowingly. I like the goals that you have. Unfortunately, the clean, drain, and dry, which I believe is a state law, you can't transport aquatic invasive and species. It's not happening because obviously it's taking place. So there needs to be more concentration upon exiting a lake. I thank you for your time, and I look forward to the evolution of this program.
Mr. Chair. I want to answer that one. The idea with the entrance to the lake, we already knew that Eurasian milfoils, zebra mussels were there. Starry stonewort's in a whole different classification
Absolutely.
of weed. And we're trying to keep that from getting here in the first place. We know the other ones are already here. So the exit one, we want to get there at some point in time, but we want to try to keep the introduction of starry stonewort out of the equation.
And maybe it's twofold.
Again, you got to crawl before you walk, before you run. I mean, ultimately, we'd like to have it going in, coming out, but we can't do it all. But right now, the clear and present danger is starry stonewort and that giddy, wow, whatever that stuff's coming at us now, the next one coming at us.
Well,
we want to try to keep that from getting there in the first place.
Being a lake owner that never had zebra mussels to now experience those, it's just as horrible as a feeling. I understand starry stonewort, hence the reason I said the evolution of this program. I think that needs to be included as the steps move forward.
And I don't disagree, it's just that the clear and present danger now is that one. That we want to try to make sure we get a handle on that one while we're still working on these other ones.
And Mr. Radke, we will have spotters at the different landings too, and they will be doing exit inspections. It's just an aspect that we're not able to build into the ordinance because we didn't have the enforcement capabilities, and that's where it is. But it is state statute, you're supposed to inspect. Unfortunately, not everyone does, so. All right,
thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Brandon Days. Did I get it right? Dio. Yeah.
He failed
I failed.
pronunciation at school.
I did. Phonics didn't work for me.
People say Deo, so,
Deo.
and I just quit correcting people at about age 12, so. I'm Brandon Dio. I'm a Maple Lake resident. I don't have a cool title like some of these people do. I basically was going to say the same thing the last guy just said about washing your boat before it goes in. Really doesn't do much. I can launch my boat in Pleasant Lake that has starry stonewort, pull it out the next day, go put it in Mille Lacs, and there's a chance I could, transfer starry stonewort to Mille Lacs Lake. And I would also like you guys to remember that Highway 55 is going to be under construction this summer. So that is a major inconvenience for somebody who lives in Maple Lake, like myself. You have to haul your boat to Annandale and back, and you can't use 55. You have to take the back roads. So he said mostly what I wanted to say anyway. So
No, and Brandon, by no means are we getting every aspect of this covered on this. I mean, this program has evolved quite a bit from last year to this year. I envision this, if it goes beyond this year, it'll make some evolutions because it's a pilot program. We're finding out things that work, things that don't work. To hopefully, in the grand scheme of things, if it was statewide and you had to get inspected to go into any lake, then you wouldn't need exit inspections because you'd always be inspected going forward.
Yeah.
But because right now we're in a vacuum, we're doing it just in Wright County, yeah, it has flaws, especially because it's not even Wright County wide. It's only a portion of
I
Wright
personally
County.
have avoided those 3 lakes that the previous law was because I didn't want to deal with the boat inspection. I mean, I do clean, drain, dry every time. I mean, I lower my motor all the way down, drain all the water out, and I do what the DNR requires.
And that's the reason, I mean, I understood it, and that's why I pushed really hard for a self-inspection program, because I see that there is some burdens to it, and there's people that are frequent boaters that go weekly, that we have to give them an opportunity, because if you live in Buffalo, you live in Monticello, you live in St. Michael, to go to Annandale with construction, that's that's an unrealistic expectation. So I'm hoping that people utilize the self-inspection piece, and I hope you are able to as well. So,
All right,
thank you.
And Mr. Chair, I want to make a point that even though there's some inconvenience to this, how would you like the inconvenience of the lake being total trash and you can't get on it at all? You know, because what's on Coronis there, if you get that on some of these smaller lakes where most of it's 10 foot or less, the whole lake's gone. It's an inconvenience now, but it's going to be a much bigger inconvenience later if you don't do anything. I mean, we have no illusion of stopping it. We're just trying to slow it down, educate, and hopefully technology can catch up and help us with this problem.
Chuck Gardner. And I'm down to just, this is one of my last public comments, unless anybody else has any to bring up here and speak.
Thank you. Chuck Gardner. I'm on Ida Lake. I'm a part of the Lake Ida Association. I'm also the lake monitoring person. I just had 3 quick points. I agree with the man that just spoke from Sugar Lake as far as the exiting part of the situation. I know that it is a kind of a walk, or baby steps first, but I think that severely infested lakes with starry stonewort should probably be a focus point on the exit strategy. Not saying that milfoil or zebra mussels are a lesser item, but I believe that would be a very good point to look forward in the past or in the future. I commend the board on this presentation and adopting 9 new lakes. I think it's fantastic to go forward. My second point is, if this goes forward with 9 lakes, what will be the process for future lakes for Wright County to gain this program?
So basically, there's an advisor group. Alicia, I'm going to have you kind of speak to the group that basically kind of brings lakes forward to our advisory committee that kind of goes into the process of it that wanted to. And maybe Chris, Hector, you want to kind of speak to that as well as to what the inclusion piece is? I'll bring up both of them.
For inclusion lakes, right now we have considered lakes that are within a 15-minute drive time and all ramps included in that. Radius could potentially be part of an Annandale station. Those are fully listed in the 2019 plan, and I believe there's 30 ramps and 27 lakes that could be potential in Annandale. What has been asked in the past is a financial contribution relative to load, so that a lakes such as Sylvia or Sugar that will bring a lot of traffic and potentially require more staffing at the regional inspection station would pay more than, say, a lake like Bass, Moose, or Ida, that the traffic would just be less so. So we try to have that financial contribution be about the same, and then also generally a motion from the Lake Association to make that financial commitment. And I'll let Chris Hector, if he has any.
And I'll speak in the meantime, because basically we kept it within the 15-mile radius because anything outside of that radius, we would need to look at opening up a second regional inspection station. So that would precipitate some other conversations. Not to say that those conversations couldn't take place. It just depends on what kind of metrics we get back from this year and what kind of success we have and whether it goes forward. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then as far as other lakes, the Wright Regional Inspection Coalition is the umbrella organization that we put together to work with lake associations. Any lake can get an associate membership. It's $25. It gets you into discussions. You can get support from other lakes that have gone through the process of working with their community and moving things forward, and then hopefully one of the objectives of the work that we do this year is take a look at what smaller footprint is if a regional inspection station were to be opened elsewhere within Wright County. What would it cost how might we administer it? So our hope is to provide that blueprints to all other lakes.
Okay, thank you. I have one last kind of, this is a future thought. I don't know if this has ever been brought up before or not, but if we go golfing, we pay for golf, right? If we go do any activity, we pay for it. I know that our lakes are public waters and they're open to everybody. I don't think anybody here is trying to rescind that right. But maybe in the future, we look at some kind of a pay and play position where we charge access to lakes, that the money goes into the local lake association to help bolster some monies to go into the association to help with this program. Personally, if I had to pay $5, you know, if you go to, in Hennepin County, if you go to right there at Medicine Lake, you pay $5 every time you go there, okay? That money possibly could be looked at forward to going and to help this program out and bolster the financial sides. It's just something that I thought of that maybe somebody could look at in the future. I know we'd probably have to go through a lot of agendas to meet that requirement, but it's just something maybe to keep in the focus for the future to assist with this monitoring program.
Thank you.
Isn't Medicine Lake a county park, though, that you're paying for that fee to park and everything else to get into
Yes.
the lake?
Yeah,
That's a little different animal. And the other part of the equation is, when you do something like this, that's legislative action. That cannot be done here.
Okay.
That's down St. Paul.
All right.
They're the only ones that can do that, and
At DNR.
it still has to go through the legislators.
At the counties, we can do.
Mr. Chair, I think that's a good idea, though.
I challenge you to take that up to the legislature and tell them you can do whatever you want.
They could
Rather than
charge-
tell you what this chapter and verse is that you can't.
I was thinking like the DNR could charge people for fishing licenses and boat license and use that money for invasives. Oh, why don't
Right
they
now,
do it?
fishing licenses are involved for bolstering all of that, but it's not enough.
That's what
You
I
know,
mean.
we pay $23 for a fishing license. That's not going to help invasive
I said, this whole thing, we're addressing this, you know, in a regional thing like it's a Wright County problem. I mean, it's not. I mean, we had people here speak from Otter Tail. It's a state problem, and it really needs to get addressed by the state. We're sitting here trying to do this stuff, and it ends up, I don't want to say a Band-Aid, but it's inadequate for what we need, because it needs to have the state, you know, at least the state, if not a, you know, if you want to have a regional, it should be, you know, the 5-state area or whatever, you
The
know.
hardest thing about the state starting programs like this is they have to have some sort of metrics to work on. They have to have some sort of a vetting process to understand what policies work before they find out whether they could even consider doing something like this on such a grand scale. We're a laboratory right now. For good or bad, things go into laboratories. Sometimes they come out as becoming the greatest cure. Other times they go into laboratories and they come out and they become the biggest failures.
Well,
And does that, some people are having to be slightly inconvenienced at going through this laboratory right now. Yes, I agree. But the goal in long term is to maybe have a success out of this that could work statewide.
But I
Very
say
good.
that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
So next one on my list is Russ Fortner.
Thank you, Commissioners. I spoke last time, at the last time we were together here, and I just want to say that as a Lake Sylvia member, we certainly are all behind this amendment and the Wright Regional Inspection Plan program. So anyway, 3 years ago, Blaine Barkley and I took a drive over to Coronas because we had heard about this. And on our way over, we were talking and, you know, whatever. And then we got there and we saw it. And I'll tell you, it would destroy the last 50 years of what we know of lake life in a heartbeat if we had it as bad as Coronas of what we saw. A little child playing on a dock, if were to fall in, I don't think that child would be able to get out of that mess of weeds. They would drown. So I think that we have to promote this. Yes, I'm not in favor of everything, but at the same time, we have to do something, and something is better than nothing. So anyway, thank you again. I appreciate everything you're doing, and it seems like we've been coming here forever.
You have.
Mike, you can just come right over since you're getting to the end of the list here, Mike.
All right. My name is Mike Moore. I'm from Montrose. I have a degree in biology and environmental science. And I would urge the board to look at some eDNA testing of all the lakes that have a public access. So you have a baseline of what has been in the lake and what could reoccur. Because we have changing nutrient loads, climate change according to some, all that could trigger or start new growth or regrowth of some of these species. And that's just kind of where I come from.
No.
More of a
good point.
Scientific look at it.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So,
Mike, could you take your expertise and talk with the soil and water people, so whatever, because you might have something that can help them on some of their decisions too, because I like people that have that degree in that, because they'll help us be just that much better.
I worked for the fisheries for a time in southwest Minnesota, and more than 20 years ago. And I just would also like to point out that a lot of these reports and sightings of invasive species and stuff are pretty current because they weren't being looked for.
Yeah.
On lake assessments, we weren't asked to survey weeds. We weren't asked to, well, we weren't looking specifically for things. We were just performing the task. And so find a benchmark, set a trap net, set a gill net. You weren't, if you would have had zebra mussels show up in a trap net, it wouldn't even been recognized on a report, wouldn't have been written down. So, but yes, I could help in some way.
So if you talk to Alicia back there, just to make sure you get, so we can get any information you can give us is going to be helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So once again here, before we close the public hearing, does anybody have any written statements they would like to include for the record? Hearing there's no written statements. Once again, anybody else want to comment for the record? Anyone else want to comment for the record? And for a last time, would anybody else like to comment for a record for the public hearing? With that, I'll entertain a motion to
Mr.
close
Chair,
the
I'll
public
make a
hearing.
motion to close the public hearing.
I have a motion by Commissioner Potter. I have a second by Commissioner Dahlheiden. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Public hearing is closed. At this time, I'm going to talk over procedural here. There will be two potential roll call votes that could come forward here. One would be if there's a motion here to approve the ordinance or to deny the ordinance approval. After that vote would be taken, there would be a second vote that would be done. It's kind of more of a housekeeping piece. The DNR requested that we do our vote for approval of the plan in a resolution that we did a few weeks ago. We will have to re-vote on that adoption of that plan in a resolution style, so a roll call vote. So we'll be doing a roll call vote twice here. I will entertain a motion to adopt 19-2, and I would like the board to address whether they would like the inclusion of amendments A, B, and C in 19-2 ordinance amendment.
Mr. Chair, I will make that motion, and I will include in the motion to approve or adopt ordinance amendment 19-2. The amendments to the ordinance stated at...
Maybe A, B, and C.
Yep. Would be 19-2A, 19-2B, and 19-2C.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hewsome. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hewsome, a second by Commissioner Potter. Any further discussion regarding the 19-2 ordinance amendment with the additions of A, B, and C?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I can't, in good conscience, vote for this at this time because of the self-certification, and we have no idea what the DNR, where they're sitting on this. I really think we're doing this before the cart before the horse. I also have concerns with Shorter Park. People coming from anywhere throughout the state to use that park, and then being told, because they're not from Wright County, not aware of it, that they're going to have to go up to Annandale to get their boat inspected in order to use it, along with the 430-some people that paid $3 per person to put their boat in at the Shorter Park over last summer. So I think there needs to be something addressed for that particular issue too. So at this point, I just can't support this resolution until we have a little more information. So again, I think it's the cart before the horse.
Commissioner Dolan, just the one about the cart before the horse. The DNR would be very, very unlikely to approve the plan if the county had not acted first. They would not. They would want to know that we're interested in going forward with the program before they would offer giving us approval. So if we would choose not to adopt the ordinance at this time, it is almost a certainty that the DNR will not react to our plan. So that is hence the reason we are adopting the ordinance at this time, so that we are posturing to the DNR that we have full heart intent to go forward with their approval. So. I understand your concerns regarding the Cedar Lake. Is it perfect for everyone? No. Is it, can we mitigate it? Potentially. I mean, I think it's some questions that we're going to have to ask this year to find out how many people are using that Cedar Lake campground ramp, and is there ways that can be done better? But sometimes we have to go through a little bit of a tough time to get the answer, so.
And Mr. Chair, Commissioner DeLyden, perhaps we can get some communication out to the people that come to camp at Schroeder, that they can be aware of it before they actually drive into the park. They can stop at Annandale first.
Well, my concern is with 55 being shut down, it's going to be a major inconvenience for a lot of people this year.
Well, it's unfortunate that we do have, they're going to have to take a detour, but there is back ways into Annandale.
Hopefully with the self-inspection piece, a lot of people will utilize that option.
Yep. I think that the self-inspection piece is going to really open this up for a lot of people that maybe felt intimidated before and avoided some lakes.
Assuming the DNR goes along with it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a piece that will come back. I mean,
we didn't know that 2 years ago if they were going to go along with this or not, and they did. So, yep.
And Mr. Chair, I'll just make my comment. I think it's a better ordinance with the self-inspection part of it. But my main concern, and it's still there, is the long-term funding. And also, I mentioned it today, I think it's bigger than Wright County, and I understand where you got to start somewhere, but I don't know why we don't start somewhere at the DNR and come up with a policy. I mean, whatever. So
well, that's why we want to work with them.
Yep. Well, the DNR does have a policy.
Yeah, they do. They have a lot of state statutes.
Yeah. So, not being enforced.
Yep.
Do we have any other discussion here? Any other discussion? All right, hearing none, this is a resolution. I will start with Commissioner Dahlheim.
No.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
Aye. The ordinance adopts on a 3-2 vote. Commissioner Dahlheim and Commissioner Burrell opposing. With that, we will move forward to the other item is the resolution affirming the vote on February 26, accepting the regional aquatic invasive species inspection plan for bass, cedar, east and west Sylvia, granite, john, moose, maple, sugar, and Pleasant Lake. This is kind of a housekeeping issue, just to do it in a resolution form versus just a general vote. So once again, I will ask for a motion.
So moved.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Potter, a second by Commissioner Hewson for the resolution affirming the vote on February 26, accepting the Regional Aquatic Invasive Species Plan. Any discussion? Hearing none. Commissioner Potter?
Aye.
No.
Aye.
Aye.
No.
All right. Plan passes 3-2. At this time, I thank everyone for coming and commenting on the record. This was a lot of good information. We had a lot of good discussion, and I think we're hoping to move forward with some sort of success here in Wright County and statewide. Thank you. We'll be adjourned at 12:07.
Mr. Chair.